Chapter 1368. Husband, you want to plant a large number of white dye seeds. In the Yunshan residence, Han Yushi looked at Li Zixuan and asked with a smile. Li Zixuan smiled and said, "Yes. Wife, you're right. I want Lantian County to be filled with white dye seeds." Ah, so many? I'm afraid the Hu merchants don't have enough seeds, right? However, other than the Hu merchants, the Nanyang Sea merchants will also have seeds. As the right commissioner of the Department of Shipping, you can ask someone. Han Yushi was shocked when she heard that. She frowned and said, "Nanyang Sea merchants. That's right. Wife, if you didn't mention it, I wouldn't have thought of it. You're really my lucky star." Huh. Li Zixuan scratched Han Yushi's nose and laughed. After breakfast, Li Zixuan immediately sent someone to invite Feng Zhihua. At 5 in the morning, Feng Zhihua arrived at Yinshan. "Marquis, you summoned me here today. Do you have something important to instruct me?" Feng Zhihua cupped his hands respectfully and said, although he was originally a wealthy merchant in Chang and City, and his family was rich and did not have to worry about food and drink, it was precisely because of Li Zixuan that his wealth had risen to another level. Not only did he have money now, but he also had a status, the title of righteous merchant of the world given by the imperial court. Even if he met the local officials, he did not have to be as humble as before. Feng Zhihua knew in his heart who had given him all this, so he had always been grateful and respectful to Li Zixuan. Li Zixuan smiled and said, "Boss Feng, please take a seat first." Xiao He quickly served Boss Feng tea. "Yes, young master." Xiao He received the order and left. Feng Zhihua was instantly flattered and said, "Hey, Marquis, you don't have to do this." Li Zixuan waved his hand and said with a smile, "Haha, Boss Feng, you don't have to be so courteous. You're a guest from afar. Besides, this Marquis called you here because I have something to ask of you." Feng Zhihua said seriously, "This Feng's glory, splendor, and wealth were all bestowed upon me by Marquis. If Marquis has any orders, this Feng will definitely do his best." "Huh, Mr. Feng is so righteous. Come on, have some tea first." Li Zixuan nodded to himself. At this moment, Xiao He brought 2 cups of immortal tea, so he greeted her with a smile. "Thank you, Marquis. After you, Marquis." Feng Zhihua extended his hand and said politely, "Huh, there's no need to be so particular about that. Please, let's go together." Speaking of immortal tea, only Li Zixuan or officials close to Li Zixuan in the vicinity of Chang and City had some. It was not easy to get a cup. Although Feng Zhihua held shares in the immortal tea garden, he had already finished the stock. Now that he came to Cloud Mountain to discuss matters with Li Zixuan, he could freeload a cup of immortal tea to drink. The two of them drank a few sips of tea. Li Zixuan went straight to the point and said, "Boss Feng, this time I'm looking for you to ask if you could get a batch of white stack flower seeds from the Nanyang Sea merchants as soon as possible." Feng Zhihua looked puzzled and asked, "Marquis, if you want white stack flower seeds, the barbarian merchants in Chang and City West have them. Why do you have to buy them from the Nanyang Sea merchants?" Li Zixuan shook his head and said, "Of course I know that the barbarian merchants have them, but the amount of white stack flower seeds I need is too large. The barbarian merchants can't satisfy me, so I want to buy more from the small Nanyang Sea countries. Currently, the Department of Shipping is in charge of the trade between the small Nanyang Sea countries and the Tang Empire. Coincidentally, I also have the position of Secretary of the Department of Shipping. I believe it will be more convenient." Feng Zhihua asked carefully, "May I ask, Marquis, how many white stack flower seeds do you need?" Li Zixuan calculated in his heart and said, "Naturally, the more the better. I don't think it's too much even if it's a few thousand or 10,000 caddies." Lantian County had a few 100,000 mu of fertile land. Moreover, there were many mountain ranges in Lantian County. The people could be encouraged to cultivate the barren mountains. Cotton did not need too much water to grow. It could survive in the barren mountains. According to Li Zixuan's experience in his previous life, 1 mu of land required about 1 to 2 kilograms of cotton seeds. Even if Feng Zhihua bought 10,000 caddies of seeds, it could only be planted in a few thousand mu of land. There is no need for fertile land at all. A few thousand to 10,000 caddies? Feng Jihua was so shocked that his wrist trembled, and he almost threw the teacup away. He could not help but exclaim, "Marquis, this is the first time I've heard of flower seeds being bought by caddies. Forgive me for asking, but Marquis, why are you buying so many white stack flower seeds? You must know that this thing is not cheap. In the Western market, one tael of white stack flower seeds is sold for 400 copper coins. This 1,000 caddies is 8,000 strings of cash. 10,000 caddies is 80,000 strings of cash. One caddy in the Tang Dynasty was equal to 16 taels of silver, 80,000 strings of cash." Li Zishuan calculated in his heart. Although 80,000 strings of cash was not a small sum, it was still within the range that he could afford. Therefore, he smiled and said, "Boss Feng, I'm buying these flower seeds to grow flowers. I want Lantian County to be filled with white stack flowers." Spending 80,000 strings of cash just to grow flowers? At this moment, Feng Jihua's heart was crumbling. He was speechless. With such a rich and willful boss, what else could he say? If it was someone else, he would probably have scolded him. Seeing Feng Jihua's speechless expression, Li Zishuan did not intend to continue beating around the bush with him. Therefore, he smiled and said, "To be honest, I intend to introduce a large number of white stack flowers in Lantian County. After a few generations of cultivation and planting, Tang Dynasty's white stack flowers will no longer need to be bought from the merchants or Nanyang sea merchants. The harvested white stack flowers can be used to make cotton-padded clothes. This way, the people of Lantian County will no longer suffer from the cold during winter." When Feng Jihua heard this, his heart trembled. He never expected that Li Zishuan's purpose of buying white stack flower seeds was so that the people could wear clothes made of white stack flowers in winter. This was crazy. Marquis' benevolence. I am deeply impressed. For the people of Lantian County to be able to become Marquis' people is a blessing that they have cultivated for several lifetimes. I envy them from the bottom of my heart. If it weren't for the mundane affairs in Chang'an City, I would also want to move to Lantian County. When the time comes, under Marquis' leadership, my family will also be able to wear clothes made of white stack flowers." Feng Jihua stood up, bowed, and said in a heartfelt manner. As for the last two sentences, they were both a joke and also the truth. If he was asked to come to Lantian County before he had made a name for himself, he would definitely be more than willing. Boss Feng, stop joking." Li Zishuan waved his hand and said, "Then about the Nanyang sea merchants. Can Boss Feng help me to contact them as soon as possible? I can give you a warrant and inform Commandery Prince Ajin to make things convenient for you." Feng Jihua clasped his hands and said, "I am willing to do anything for Marquis. Last year when I went out to sea, I did not die and got to know many sea merchants. Today, I will go back to my residence to make some arrangements. Tomorrow, I will lead the fleet down south to the Guangdong port to buy white stack flower seeds from the sea merchants." Li Zishuan stood up and said, "In that case, thank you very much, Boss Feng. If Boss Feng can send back a batch of white stack flower seeds as soon as possible, I will definitely reward you handsomely." "I don't dare to accept your reward. It is my honor to be able to serve Marquis." Feng Jihua's eyes suddenly flashed and said, "Marquis, the amount of white stack flower seeds you need this time is too large. I'm afraid it will be inconvenient to carry copper coins for the transaction. In my opinion, why don't you bring a batch of porcelain, colored glass, and divine mirror and other valuable items for the transaction? These items are very popular with the merchants from the small Nanyang countries. The price they offer is usually several times more expensive than what we sell in Tang Dynasty. This way, Marquis, you can also save a lot of money." Li Zishuan's eyes lit up, and he clapped his hands and said, "That's right. Why didn't I think of this? How about this? I will let the workshop take out a batch of colored glass cups, and divine mirror worth 80,000 strings of coins, and give them to Boss Feng to exchange for 10,000 caddies of white stack flower seeds. If it is not enough, I will make up for it. If there is any extra, it will be Boss Feng's hard work fee. Of course, no matter what, I will remember this favor from you." These glass products were worthless to Li Zishuan, but to the aristocrats of the small Nanyang countries, they were priceless treasures. This time, they could be used to exchange for cotton seeds. Li Zishuan felt that this business was really worth it. Feng Zhihua wanted to reject, but Li Zishuan waved his hand and said, "Boss Feng, you don't have to reject. You have spent a lot of money on this trip to Guangdong. How can a businessman suffer a loss?" Although Feng Zhihua took the waterway this time, the cost of the journey was not small. The maintenance of the boat and the hiring of craftsmen, laborers, and sailors all cost money. Since Li Zishuan had said so, Feng Zhihua could only helplessly cup his hands and say, "All right, I will try my best to bring back more white stack flower seeds for Marquis, Chang, and City, Imperial Palace." In the morning court, Li Er announced a major event. He appointed Li Ku as the king of Shu and appointed him as the governor of Yi province. He would be in charge of the affairs of the 36 provinces in Jiannan province. For years later, he would be appointed to the Shu lands. The protectorate of Yi province, which had been empty for a long time, finally had a highest-ranking officer today. Moreover, it was a prince that Li Er doted on quite a lot. After eliminating the rebel army of Jiannan province, Li Er made this decision again. It could be said that there was a hidden meaning behind it. This was an official announcement to the world that he, Li Er, was starting to manage the land of Shu. The new workshop of Strange Interest Pavilion, which was near Plum Village in Lantian County, also started to move. Carriage after carriage of precious colored glass cups, colored glass lamps, and divine mirrors were pulled out of the workshop and headed to the pier downstream of the Ba River. The Feng family's fleet was already waiting at the pier. These shiny treasures blinded the titanium eyes of many passers-by along the way. People were naturally amazed by Li Zishuan's generosity, but Li Zishuan did not care at all. This was because these shiny things were made of sand. Using sand to exchange for cotton seeds, no matter how you looked at it, was a profit. Besides, since the workshop launched all kinds of colored glass devices last year, the high-end colored glass market in Tang Dynasty had begun to reach saturation. This saturation did not mean that every household had bought a colored glass device, but that those who could afford it had already bought it. The price of colored glass was likely to be adjusted slightly in the future, so that more people who wanted to buy colored glass could afford it. Therefore, by selling such a large batch of colored glass products to a small country in Nanyang, they could still earn a large premium. At the same time, all the white fold flower seeds in the hands of the merchants in Shi City were all bought by a group of people around noon. This caused the rich ladies in Chang and City who loved white fold flower seeds but did not have the time to buy them to curse in their hearts. They did not know which bastard had bought all the white fold flower seeds. That bastard was naturally Li Zishuan. However, Li Zishuan, who had swept away all of the white fold cotton seeds, was not satisfied at all. This was because all of the cotton seeds he had sent people to Shi City to buy added up to only a little over 200 caddies. Marquis, these are all white fold flower seeds. In the afternoon, Lantian County's county magistrate, he was summoned by Li Zishuan to Yunshan. When he saw 4 sacks of white fold flower seeds in the front yard, county magistrate, he was stunned. County magistrate, he has good taste. That's right, these are all white fold flower seeds. Li Zishuan said with a smile. He had originally planned to go to the workshop to make light bulbs today. However, when it came to cotton, he could only postpone the matter of making light bulbs. He called county magistrate he over for 2 reasons. Firstly, he wanted county magistrate he to encourage the people to cultivate wastelands and prepare to plant cotton. Secondly, he wanted to listen to county magistrate he's recent work report. Good taste. County magistrate, he wanted to curse. He thought to himself, do I need you to praise me for having good taste? What I want to hear is why you want to get so many white full flower seeds, okay? Gulp. County magistrate, he swallowed a mouthful of saliva and laughed dryly. Is the Marquis planning to plant the entire Cloud Mountain with white stack flowers? Hee. I didn't know that Marquis had such a refined interest. Hee. Let's talk inside. Li Zishuan did not deny it. He led county magistrate he in the main hall and asked for 2 cups of immortal tea. County magistrate, he naturally had to praise this peerless, immortal tea. After 15 minutes, Li Zixuan began to talk about the main topic. County magistrate, I invited you here today because I have something to discuss with you. County magistrate, he quickly recovered from the delicious, immortal tea. He said, "Oh, Marquis, please speak." Li Zixuan nodded his head and said, "This Marquis wishes to promote the planting of hoary leaf flowers in Lantian County. Soon, there will be over 10,000 caddies of hoary leaf flowers being transported over from Guangdong. Therefore, the most important thing now is for County Magistrate he to call upon the citizens of the county to open up wasteland and prepare to plant hoary leaf flowers. The people who are willing to plant them should report to the county government as soon as possible. If the wastelands can be cultivated before the seeds arrive, every household can receive 1 pound of white fold flower seeds for free. Tens of thousands of pounds of white fold flower seeds, all for free." County Magistrate, his eyes widened and his face was full of disbelief. He was not someone who did not know the market price. 1 pound of white fold flower seeds was at least 7 or 8 strings of cash. Tens of thousands of pounds of white fold flower seeds would be 70 or 80,000 strings of cash. He even suspected that Li Zixuan's brain was short-circuited. When Li Zixuan heard this, he almost laughed because this sentence sounded like an advertising slogan in his previous life. When you go online, you will be given a VIP. Ingots and diamonds will all be given for free. Ahem. Li Zixuan cleared his throat and said seriously, "It is indeed free. It is indeed free of charge. Otherwise, the commoners would not be able to afford the seeds. However, the farmers who receive the seeds must sign an agreement with the county government. After the white stack seeds are fully grown, the flowers will belong to the farmers themselves. The commoners can keep them to make cotton-padded clothes or sell them. This marquis will not interfere. However, all the flower seeds and the flowers must be picked and handed over to the county government. If anyone does not hand them over, they will be fined 10 strings of cash." Chapter 1369. Every farmer would be given a caddy of white fold flower seeds for free. Once they matured, the flowers would belong to them. They just needed to hand the seeds and the flowers to the yamen. County magistrate, he was certain that once this news spread out, the entire Lantian County citizens would go crazy. That was because this was a business that was guaranteed to be profitable without any losses. It was an extremely profitable business. Think about it. With a caddy of white fold flower seeds, how many white fold flowers could they grow? Even if they didn't mature well, they would still be able to receive 20 to 30 caddies of flowers, right? When they were sold, they would be able to sell for at least a few hundred strings of cash, right? Without any cost, just 1 moo of white fold flower seeds could earn a few hundred strings of cash. To be honest, even county magistrate, he wanted to roll up his sleeves and do it. After all, his annual salary might not even be as high as this. Gulp. After swallowing 2 mouthfuls of saliva, county magistrate, he calmed himself down and asked with difficulty, "Marquis, are you sure you want to do this? That's 70 to 80,000 strings of cash." Although the money wasn't his, he still felt the pinch for Li Zixuan. Li Zixuan nodded and said, "Money is just a worldly possession. To be able to let the citizens have enough to eat, and where is the responsibility of this marquis in you? Besides, it's not like this marquis didn't gain anything. Today, this marquis gave them 10,000 caddies of white fold flower seeds. In a few months, this marquis will be able to get back a few 100,000 caddies. This marquis didn't make a loss. In a single flower, the weight of the cotton wool was about 40% of the entire flower's weight, while the cotton seeds were more than 60% of the weight. That meant that if the last moo of land could harvest 20 to 30 caddies of cotton wool, then correspondingly, they could harvest 30 to 40 caddies of cotton seeds. Furthermore, this yield was estimated based on the lowest yield. Therefore, in this transaction, Li Zixuan didn't make a loss. After a year of breeding, he could let every household in Lantian County plant a few moo of cotton. When that time came, no one in Lantian County would be able to suffer from the cold during winter. Yes, yes, yes. Marquis is right. County magistrate, he wiped the sweat off his forehead and cupped his hands towards Lisa Schwann. Since that's the case, when this official returns, I will immediately send out a notice to all the villages in the county, encouraging the people to go ahead and reclaim the wasteland. It just so happens that the spring plowing and spring planting have just passed. The commoners have plenty of time. Yes, that would be the best. Lisa Schwann nodded. County magistrate, he was about to get up and leave when he suddenly remembered that he had another matter to attend to. Thus, he cupped his hands and said, "That's right. Marquis, your mansion in Lantion County has basically been completed. If you have time in the near future, you can go over and see if there's any place that isn't to your liking. This official will get the craftsman to make some changes." If this was in his previous life, if someone told Lisa Schwann that his house was completed in the center of the county, with its own courtyard and mountains, Lisa Schwann would definitely be overjoyed. But now, Lisa Schwann only raised his eyebrows. His heart didn't waver at all. He lightly said, "Yes. This marquis will go over and take a look when I have time." County magistrate, how's the situation in the county recently? Is everything all right? Although the mansion in Lantion County was the true marquis residence of Yong, and Lisa Schwann didn't plan to completely move there for the time being because of Yanhuang College. At most, his father and mother would go over to oversee the mansion. Thus, Lisa Schwann didn't care much about the mansion. What he cared about was the development of his fief. Hearing Lisa Schwann ask about his job, County magistrate, his face immediately turned serious. He cupped his hands and said, "Marquis, everything in Lantion County is fine. Because of the football field in the county, there have been more and more pedestrians and merchants coming to Lantion County recently. Also, because of the Drunken Immortal House, Strange Interest Pavilion, and Treasure House, these famous shops and big shops have moved in. It has indirectly increased the business of the other shops. Now, our Lantion County has become the most prosperous county within a radius of 100 miles, excluding Chang'an City. If the people and gentry of the other counties in the east want to buy something, they wouldn't go to Chang'an City. More and more merchants want to open a shop in Lantion County. Therefore, the prices of the shops in the county have been increasing. I predict that the business tax collected by the county government this year will be at least 3 times more than the previous years." "Yes, that's good." Lisa Schwann nodded, feeling very satisfied in his heart. After all, the development of the people in Lantion County was what he cared about the most. This was his headquarters. After sending off county magistrate Lisa Schwann went to the side courtyard to look for his father and mother, informing them of the news that the Marquis Yoan Manor in Lantion County had been completed. Upon hearing the news, Madame Li's interest was immediately piqued. She excitedly dragged Old Man Li to take a look at the new manor. After all, this was the foundation that her son would pass down to his descendants. Since Lisa Schwann couldn't leave because of the Academy's affairs, they, as elders, had to prepare the new mansion in advance anyway. For example, furniture, decorations, potted plants, and so on, they had to buy what needed to be bought and sent people to buy what needed to be bought. They couldn't leave the new mansion empty all the time, which was inauspicious. Therefore, Old Man Li, Madame Li, Yi Guichong, and Old Lady Yi hurriedly brought a group of servants down the Cloud Mountain and rushed to Lantion County that afternoon. Lisa Schwann didn't stop them. Of course, he appreciated the elders' good intentions. After sending his parents off, Lisa Schwann went directly to the academy. At the door of his office, he saw Kushirqing. Obviously, this child had been waiting here for a while. "Yamacho, do you have time now? I have something to talk to you about." Seeing Lisa Schwann, Kushirqing's face lit up, and he quickly cupped his hands. Lisa Schwann was bewildered. He didn't know why Kushirqing didn't even go to class and came to find him. But he still nodded and said, "Yes. Come in." Lisa Schwann didn't rashly blame Kushirqing for skipping class. He planned to wait until Kushirqing finished talking about what he wanted to say before making a decision. The two of them entered the office. Lisa Schwann poured 2 cups of tea and handed one to Kushirqing. Kushirqing was flattered. Recently, when the teachers of the academy taught, they would usually bring a cup of tea into the classroom in advance. The fragrance of the tea made all the students in the classroom drool. He heard from Li Tai, Chung Chumo, and the other nobles that this tea was called immortal tea. It was created by Li Zishuan and was currently not sold outside. Ku Shurqing didn't expect Li Zishuan to be so generous and directly give him a cup of immortal tea. How could he not be flattered? Thank you, Yamacho. Ku Shurqing took the tea and cupped his hands in thanks. Hee. Now you can tell me why you're looking for me. Li Zishuan's expression didn't change. He had always been very generous to his students. What was a cup of tea to him? Ku Shurqing quickly put down the teacup and said with a serious face, Yamacho, I heard from Mr. Wang that you found a vanadium mine on the Lan family's volcano in Pingzhou. However, the local Chang people stopped you from mining it. Is this true? Li Zishuan was stunned and said with some doubt, It is true. But Shurqing, why are you asking this? Ku Shurqing cupped his hands and said, Yamacho, I'm from Bashu. My parents left their hometown to bring me to Beijing to study. My family is also from Chang. Li Zishuan heard this and was shocked. He said with some disbelief, Shurqing, you're saying that you're from Chang? Ku Shurqing nodded and said, That's right. I grew up in the Chang tribe. The Chang people live in poverty and rely on the mountains to survive. Due to geographical reasons, the Chang tribe has been isolated from the outside world for generations. Although everyone's life is poor, there is no oppression and no corrupt officials. The people are happy and content. However, the Chang people only pursue food and clothing for generations. No one knows how to read or study. My father is not from Chang. He was a scholar in Kaifeng. Because he was in love with my mother, he lived with her in the Chang tribe. My father taught me to read and write since I was young. He wanted me to be a scholar in the future. When I was 12 years old, I was recognized by a scholar in Bashu. He recommended me to the Imperial College. I didn't disappoint him. I passed the Imperial College's examination and entered the School of Mathematics. Later on, I met Yamacho. My parents were worried about leaving me alone in Chang, and so they followed me. I know the Chang tribe that Yamacho's servant met in Bashu. Their leader is called Xiaofeng. This tribe is the largest Chang tribe in Bashu. If Yamacho wants to mine there, I could go to Shu and persuade their leader, Xiaofeng. When Li Zishuan heard the name of the Chang tribe in Bashu, he almost jumped up. He wanted to ask Ku Shurqing if Xiaofeng knew the 18 dragon subduing palms. That's right. His name is Xiaofeng. Does Yamacho know this Chang leader? Ku Shurqing asked curiously when he saw Li Zishuan's big reaction. Ahem. Li Zishuan shook his head to get rid of the nonsensical thoughts in his head and asked, I don't know him. I don't know him. Shurqing, which Xiao and Feng is this Xiaofeng? Ku Shurqing poured 2 drops of tea on the table and wrote Xiaofeng on it. Yamacho, it's this Xiaofeng. Li Zishuan looked at it and realized that he had misunderstood. He straightened his face and said, Ahem, Shurqing, I'm very touched that you volunteered to go to Bashu to help me persuade the Chang people. But how is your relationship with the Chang tribe in Bashu? Will they make things difficult for you? Will they listen to you? Ku Shurqing's volunteering made Li Zishuan feel relieved. Before this, he had been thinking about who to send to persuade the Chang people in Bashu. Even so, he had to make sure that Ku Shurqing wouldn't be in danger. After all, San Bao and the others had almost died in the hands of the Chang people in Bashu. Chapter 1370. Yamacho, don't worry. We, the Chang people, won't hurt the Chang people. Yinhuang College, Yamacho's office. After hearing Li Zishuan's worries, Ku Shurqing quickly explained. A few years ago, I was admitted to the Imperial College. This caused quite a stir in the Chang tribe in Sichuan. Ever since the Imperial Court started the Imperial examinations and established the Imperial College, no one in the Chang tribe has ever been admitted to the Imperial College. Therefore, if I can persuade them and explain to Chief Xiaofeng why the Lan family's volcano can attract soldiers, they will not stop you from sending people to mine. Li Zishuan couldn't help but smile. So, Shurqing, you have been the pride of your tribe since you were young. Not bad, not bad. Since you took the initiative to volunteer today, I, as the Yamacho, have no reason to refuse. However, this is an important matter. I still need to get your parents' approval. Otherwise, you still can't go to Sichuan. Kushirching cupped his hands and said, Of course. Yamacho, don't worry. I will definitely be able to persuade my parents. Li Zishuan nodded and said, In the morning assembly today, His Majesty has already changed the King of Han to the King of Shu and appointed him as the governor of Izhou. I believe you can also see His Majesty's determination to govern Shu. If you can mediate and let the Chong people and the imperial court turn weapons of war into gifts of jade and silk, it will be a good thing. However, just yesterday, His Majesty has already ordered the governor of Izhou to mediate with the Chong people. If you want to go to Sichuan, you have to leave as soon as possible. When the time comes, I will send a letter to the governor of Izhou to inform him. Kushirching's eyes lit up and said, Yamacho, are you talking about Governor Gao? Li Zishuan nodded and said, Yes, it is Governor Gao. Shirching, do you know him? Kushirching nodded excitedly and said, Although I have never met him, Shirching has heard of Governor Gao's name. In the past few years, I have been studying in Chong and have not returned to Shu County. However, I have been paying attention to the news there. The people of Shu County were frivolous. They were afraid of ghosts and hated the sick. Most of them did not personally serve their sick parents. Instead, they used sticks to pick up food and passed it to them from afar. It was said that after Chief Gao took office, due to his influence, the customs were changed. Furthermore, Elder Gao had also dug a new canal outside of the one river that Li Bing had dredged during the Qin Dynasty, allowing the people of the Shu lands to benefit greatly. In addition, he also used his free time to organize poetry and prose meetings. He also let the Confucian scholars discuss the classics of Confucianism and encourage the young students. As a result, the study style in Sichuan gradually became stronger. Today, Elder Gao is widely respected by the people in the Shu lands. This time, with him stepping forward to mediate, I'm sure Leader Qiao Feng won't not give him face. So it seems like there's no need to go to the Shu lands before studying. At the end, Kushirching scratched his head a little embarrassedly. After all, he had skipped class to come to Li Zishuan and volunteered. But now, he realized that there was no need for him to go, no matter how he looked at it. It was a little suspicious of fishing in troubled waters. Li Zishuan smiled and did not blame him. After a moment of silence, he asked in a deep voice, Shirching, if you were to pass the imperial examinations in the future, what would you like to do the most? Would you like to live high in the imperial court and accompany the emperor, or would you like to be an official and benefit the people? Kushirching frowned and thought seriously for a long time before replying, Yamacho, if I could pass the imperial examinations, I would like to return to Shu County and become an official. Shu County is the place where I grew up. It's a beautiful place, but the people there live a poor life. Most of them have never left the Shu lands in their lives, so naturally, they don't know how wonderful the world outside the Shu lands is. I want to bring the people of the Shu lands to live a good life. I want the Shu lands to be no longer isolated. I hope that the good things in Chong and City can also be found in the Shu lands, such as the carriages, bicycles, and the celestial mirror of Wonder's Pavilion. Although these things have been sold to all the states and counties in the world, I believe that these things are rare in the Shu lands now. As the people of the Tang Empire, I think that the people of the Shu lands are no different from the people of Chong, and they should also live a good life and use the advanced engineering products created by Yamacho. If there's a chance, I will definitely benefit the people of my hometown in the future. Li Zishuan stood up and patted Kushirching's shoulder. He laughed and said, Haha, good. The most important thing is to not forget your roots. Shirching, I'm very pleased that you have such thoughts. The Shu lands have been isolated for many years. This is true. This time, I'm mining the vanadium mine in Feng Province. I've thought of using the mine to help the people in the surrounding areas become rich. When the time comes, I'll pay for them to build roads and bridges. If they're willing to help, they'll be able to get a good salary. So, if your parents agree, I still hope that you can make a trip to Shu lands. As a local, you should know the customs of the people there the best. If you can get the tribal power there to be understood, I can even let the people of the Yin Huang Chamber of Commerce open a shop there and bring all the fine goods from Chang and city over. This way, the communication between the Shu lands and the Central Plains will become more frequent, and the lives of the people will become better. What? Yamacho, are you serious? Kushirqing was pleasantly surprised. If that was the case, then more than half of his dreams have been realized by Li Zishuan. Li Zishuan smiled and said, "A gentleman's promise is worth 1,000 gold. What I said, of course, is true." That's great. That's great. Thank you, Yamacho. I'll go back and discuss with my parents. Tomorrow, I'll leave for the Shu lands. When the time comes, I'll definitely pass on Yamacho's goodwill to Chief Xiaofeng. I'm sure he won't refuse. Kushirqing was extremely excited as he cupped his hands towards Li Zishuan. Then he suddenly thought of something and his face darkened. He said, I don't seem to be able to leave for Shu lands recently. Previously, the headmaster said that for the next 4 weeks, there will be a secret exam every Friday. Those who fail 4 times will be expelled from the academy. No matter what, the students have to wait until the exam ends this Friday before they can leave. Li Zishuan heard this and secretly praised this child's meticulousness. He thought for a while and asked, Shirqing, how's your memorization of this secret exam from the school? If I let you take the exam now, are you confident? Kushirqing frowned and thought for a moment. He gritted his teeth and cupped his hands. Return to Yamacho. I'm confident. Li Zishuan smiled and said, That's good. There's still some time before school ends. You can start the exam now. I'll grade your exam tonight. If you pass, you can go home tomorrow and persuade your parents. If you don't pass, then you don't have to go to Shu lands this time. Although he wanted Kushirqing to go back and discuss with his parents tonight, he had emphasized the importance of confidentiality in front of all the teachers and students of the school last week. As the one who set the rules, how could he open a back door for Kushirqing at this time? Kushirqing nodded heavily and said, Yes, Yamacho. Li Zishuan turned around and took out a sealed document from the drawer. After opening it, he took out a test paper. Then, he took a pencil from the pen holder on the table and handed it to Kushirqing. He said, Find a place in this office and start the exam. The exam will last for an hour. He had already prepared the exam papers for the Academy's confidentiality exam. He even prepared 4 sets. It just so happened that there was 1 set per week. Kushirqing should be the first person other than him to see the exam papers. Kushirqing took the test paper and nodded. Okay, Yamacho. Husband, aren't you going to sleep yet? After dinner, Li Zishuan went straight to the study. Han Yushi glanced into the study when she passed by and asked, Wife, you go to sleep first. I'll go to sleep after I finish grading this exam. Li Zishuan looked up and said softly. This exam paper was naturally the confidential exam paper that Kushirqing had just finished in the afternoon. Then husband, don't stay up too late. Han Yushi nodded and went upstairs to sleep. Li Zishuan's gaze returned to the exam paper. He gently stroked the red pen on every part of the exam paper. Fill in the blanks, multiple choice questions, decision questions, short answer questions. He read 10 lines at a glance and finished grading in about 10 minutes. 99 points. Not bad, not bad. This Kushirqing's foundation is really good. No wonder before I went to the Imperial College, he was the best in the school of mathematics. He's a good seedling. Looking at the bright red 99 points on the exam paper, Li Zishuan praised. In this way, Kushirqing could leave the academy tomorrow and go home to discuss the trip to Sichuan with his parents. In fact, letting Kushirqing go to Sichuan was not Li Zishuan's plan. It was just added at the last minute. Kushirqing had the ability and the dream. As a Yamacho, Li Zishuan naturally had to give his student a stage to realize his dream. What was Li Zishuan's dream when he had just transmigrated? Li Zishuan would definitely answer that he wanted to be a carefree marquis and then rely on his wealth to live a life of luxury with his wife. But now, he was a marquis and a Yamacho of the academy. His dream was to help his student realize his dream. He wanted to be a dream godfather and let his student become the most outstanding person no matter where he went. He wanted to have students all over the world. When that time came, he would become the most powerful person in the world, because by then, any student would be able to hold their own. The next morning, Li Zixuan arrived at Yanwang College. Coincidentally, Ke Shiqing was waiting for him in front of Guanghua Building. It was time for the students to have their breakfast. Yamacho, when Ke Shiqing saw Li Zixuan walking towards him, he hurriedly went up and greeted him nervously. Li Zixuan smiled and said, "Hee, why? Are you worried that you didn't pass the exam?" Ke Shiqing nodded and said, "Although I checked my answers last night when I returned to the dormitory, I still feel a little nervous. After all, I really want to go to Sichuan." Li Zixuan patted Ke Shiqing's shoulder and laughed. "Haha, don't worry. You scored 99 points this time. According to the rules of the academy, you have passed. I will give you special permission not to participate in the next few exams. But I can't give you the exam papers now. After all, the other students haven't taken the exam yet. You can go back and discuss with your parents about the trip to Sichuan. If your parents agree, you can ask someone to send a message to me and then go directly to Sichuan. As for the academy, I will give you some time off. When you return, you can go and study by yourself. Just like Meng Wenhao and Iron Egg, who went to war with the army. As for Chief Gao, I will write a letter to him today. When you are there, he will take care of you." Ke Shiqing said gratefully, "Thank you, Yamacho. Then I will take my leave. Yamacho, take care." Li Zixuan nodded and said, "And if you're going to Sichuan, you take care too." After the academy helped Ke Shiqing with his request for leave and handed his secret exam results to Yin Silu, Li Zixuan went down Yinshan and rowed towards the pier at the lower reaches of the Ba River. At the pier, 5 large merchant ships of the Feng family were ready to set off. Because they did not buy a lot of seeds in Guangdong, only a little more than 10,000 jin, Feng Zhihua only sent out 5 merchant ships. "Marquis, why are you here?" Feng Zhihua, who was directing the loading of goods at the pier, inadvertently saw Li Zixuan riding over. He quickly went up and greeted him. Li Zixuan dismounted from his horse and said with a smile, "Boss Feng has acted righteously this time and personally helped this marquis go to Guangdong to purchase the white stack flower seeds. This marquis has to send Boss Feng off no matter what." Feng Zhihua was flattered and said, "Thank you, Marquis, for sending me off." "Ha, it's my pleasure, it's my pleasure." Li Zixuan waved his hand and took out a piece of paper and a painted letter. He handed it to Feng Zhihua and said, "Here, this is this marquis's order and this marquis's personal letter to Junwang Yi." Thinking that sending someone to deliver the letter would not be as fast as sending it by sea, I will have to trouble Boss Feng to personally deliver this letter to Junwang Yi. When the royal prince sees this letter, he will definitely make it convenient for you. The convenience he was talking about was not asking Li Shaogong to open a back door for Feng Zhihua. He, Li Zixuan, was not someone who liked special treatment. For this sea trade, he would not let Feng Zhihua pay any less of the taxes that should be paid in Guangdong. The reason why he still needed to write a letter was because he wanted to borrow the power of the Department of Commerce to get the small countries in Nanyang to ship more white stack flowers to Guangdong to sell. Feng Zhihua took the warrant and the letter with both hands and said, "Marquis, don't worry. I will personally deliver this letter to the royal prince of Hejian." Coincidentally, at this time, all the goods on the dock had been loaded. A red sun jumped out of the horizon and shone on the surface of the Ba River, reflecting the clear and crystalline waves. Feng Zhihua cupped his fists and said, "Marquis, the time has come. The fleet should set sail. This Feng will bid farewell here. This time, I will definitely bring back as many white stack flowers as possible for the Marquis. Marquis, may we meet again?" Li Zixuan also cupped his fist and said, "See you later." Feng Zhihua nodded and then turned to walk towards the big ship. "Raise the anchor, raise the sails, set sail." A moment later, the sailors on the big ship shouted, and the fleet of 5 big ships finally set sail towards the east. Chapter 1371. After watching the fleet leave, Li Zixuan went straight to the workshop. His family had bought over 200 caddies of cotton seeds from the Hu people yesterday. These few days, he had to start making arrangement for the servants in the residence to start growing the seeds. And growing the seeds required a type of machine, a nutrient bowl manufacturer machine. If the cotton seeds were directly scattered in the ground, a large portion of them would not germinate. The survival rate was extremely low. In his previous life, Li Zishuan was also a villager. He had experienced the entire process of growing cotton. He remembered that when his family was growing cotton, they had to first plant the cotton seeds in a nutrient bowl. After the seeds germinated, the seedlings would be transplanted into the ground. The so-called nutrition bowl was to load the loose, fertile soil that was easy to retain water and fertilizer, germ-free, and seedless into the machine for making nutrition bowls. Through the machine, cup-shaped nutrition bowls with a diameter of 11 centimeters and a height of 10 to 12 centimeters were manufactured. The cotton seeds were pressed into the nutrition bowls, and the nutrition bowls were covered with a thin film until they sprouted. After the cotton seeds germinated, they would be transplanted into the ground along with the nutrient bowl, and the job would be done. The greatest benefit of this method was that it could greatly increase the survival rate of the cotton seeds. Compared to sowing directly, this nutrient bowl sowing method could save at least 3 times the amount of seeds. If the people of Lantian County were to use this nutrient bowl sowing method in the future, then the amount of cotton seeds they would need to plant per mu of land would not even be 1 caddy. In the modern era, the South used the nutrient bowl sowing method to plant cotton in 1 mu of land. It required about 0.7 caddies of seeds. In the North, the direct sowing method required about 3 to 6 caddies of seeds per mu of land. Therefore, the nutrient bowl sowing method had always been popular in the southern regions. However, there were also disadvantages. For example, it required a lot of manpower and resources. In addition, the nutrient bowl sowing seedlings and transplanting them could make the cotton seedlings stronger. Correspondingly, they could produce more cotton in the future. Therefore, not only did this method save on seeds, it also guaranteed a high yield. Moreover, the most important thing was that this method of growing cotton had not appeared in this era. Why was cotton only an expensive flower in the Tang Dynasty for people to admire? Why was it not planted on a large scale? Because it was expensive. But why was it expensive? Other than the fact that there were very few people in the Central Plains who needed to import cotton, the most important reason was its low survival rate and low yield. Very few people were willing to plant it on a large scale. As the saying goes, the rarer something is, the greater its value. Thus, this cotton could only be treated as a precious flower for people to admire. As for using it to make clothes, that would be too extravagant. Only a fool with a lot of money would do such a thing. Therefore, Li Zishuan planned to promote his nutrient bowl planting technology. First, he had to go to the workshop to build a nutrient bowl manufacturing machine. He planned to make a hand-pressed nutrient bowl manufacturing machine for cotton. At this time, Li Zishuan was thankful that he came from a rural family in his previous life. Otherwise, he wouldn't know about these things. It wasn't difficult to make this kind of handheld cotton nutrition bowl making machine. Its structure was similar to the pushrod honeycomb coal mold made by the workshop previously. That was used to shape coal blocks, while this one was used to shape fertile soil. Therefore, Li Zishuan came to the workshop and explained it to Faubert. Faubert immediately understood and promised that the hand-pressed cotton nutrition bowl machine would be ready and sent to Yunshan Mountain by noon. Only then did Li Zishuan return to Cloud Mountain in satisfaction. At the same time, dozens of Yamen runners ran out of Lantian County. Each one of them held a notice and ran to the villages in all directions. The people from the county Yamen came to put up notices? What's going on? The Yamen runners actually came to our Yu family manor to put up notices. It's really too strange. On the wall at the entrance of the Yu family manor, the commoners looked at the notice that had just been put up and gathered together to discuss it. In the past, if the Yamen needed to announce something to the commoners, they only needed to put up notices in key places in the city. It was very rare to see a notice directly sent to the village like today. It was no wonder that these villagers felt it was strange. However, it could also be seen that county magistrate, he was very attentive to Li Zishuan's orders this time. Elementary Scholar Yu. Where is elementary scholar you? Quickly let elementary scholar you see what's written on the notice. He's coming, he's coming. Quickly make way. Elementary scholar you is coming. Elementary scholar you, quickly read it for us. What's written on the notice? Could it be that the county yamen is going to increase our taxes again? Amidst the numerous calls, Yu Dehang, who had met Li Zixuan a few times before, walked out of the Yu family manor. Uncle Zhong, Marquis, is in charge of Lantian County right now. The county yamen won't increase our taxes, so don't make wild guesses. Can you let me see what's written on the notice first? Yu Dehang comforted Zhong Lijing and then looked at the notice on the wall. After a while, he was completely stunned. Elementary scholar you? Elementary scholar you? What's wrong with you? What's written on a notice? Could it be that I, old Zhong, guessed correctly? Zhong Lijing saw that Yu Dehang's eyes were wide open as he stood there in a daze without saying a word. Instead, he looked very surprised. He hurriedly pulled on Yu Dehang's sleeve and said worriedly, "That's right, elementary scholar you. What's written on the notice?" The commoners were also anxious and started to shout. Yu Dehang, who was in a state of shock, finally came to his senses. He swallowed his saliva and forcefully suppressed the shock in his heart. He said, "The notice says that Marquis intends to promote the planting of white dye seeds within the borders of Lantian County. He has already asked someone to buy the seeds. From today onwards, as long as a farmer is willing to plant white dye seeds, you can immediately go to the county yamen to report. Before the seeds arrive, as long as a farmer is able to cultivate 1 mu of wasteland, they can go to the county yamen to receive a caddy of white dye seeds for free." Receive a caddy of white dye seeds for free? Elementary scholar you. You're not mistaken, right? That's right. Elementary scholar you. A caddy of white dye seeds is worth 7 or 8 strings of coins. Is Marquis really going to give it to us for free? Then wouldn't Marquis suffer a huge loss? Before Yu Dehang could finish speaking, the surrounding commoners immediately exclaimed in disbelief. "Everyone, please let me finish reading." Yu Dehang hurriedly shouted to maintain order. When the surroundings quieted down again, he said loudly, "This notice also says that when the farmers receive the free seeds of the white fold flower, they need to sign an agreement with the yamen. That is, when the white fold flower matures, they need to remove the seeds and hand them all over to the county yamen. Those that don't hand them over will be fined 10 strings of cash, including the principal and interest. As for the tidbits produced by the white fold, you can sell them directly or use them to make winter clothes. This way, you won't suffer from the cold during the winter. No matter what, the tidbits of the white fold belong to the farmers. The Marquis will not interfere with how you use them." As Yu Dehang's voice fell, everyone was shocked. After the shock, there was ecstasy. Marquis is actually giving out white dye seeds for free, and all the white dye seeds that are planted will belong to us. Marquis is really benevolent. If we can receive a caddy of seeds, we can at least earn 10 strings of coins. 10 strings of coins? Zhong Lijing, is there that much? Hey, as long as the harvest isn't bad, it won't be a problem to earn 100 strings of coins. Huh, what are we waiting for? Quickly go to the county yamen to register. Last time, when Marquis promoted the greenhouse vegetables, our Yu family village didn't get to see the white dye seeds this time. No matter what, we can't miss it. That's right. That's right. Quickly go to the county yamen to register. If we're late, we might not get it. Go quickly. Go quickly. Suddenly, the group of people rushed out like a swarm of bees. They didn't even have time to put down the shovels, hoes, and other farming tools on their shoulders as they rushed directly in the direction of Lantian County. Hey, wait for me. Yu Dehang called out twice and hurriedly followed. A similar situation also happened in the dozens of other farmsteads in Lantian County. These farmsteads were all in an uproar at the same time. They went to the county yamen to register and then reclaimed 1 mu of wasteland to get a caddy of white dye seeds for free. In the eyes of the farmers, wasn't this like picking up money? Moreover, they could pick up tens or even hundreds of strings of coins. How could the farmers not be tempted by this? This was especially true for the farmers who were incorporated into Li Zixuan's fiefdom later. When Li Zixuan promoted the greenhouse vegetables, they didn't belong to Li Zixuan's fiefdom. Naturally, they didn't enjoy the first wave of dividends. Now that the second wave of dividends was finally here, of course, they had to desperately grab hold of it. Of course, they weren't the only ones who wanted to grab hold of it. The farmers of the 8 farmsteads who had followed Li Zixuan in the beginning were even more enthusiastic. Because of the greenhouse vegetables incident last time, they firmly believed that following Li Zixuan would bring them benefits. As long as it was Li Zixuan's decision, they would unconditionally support it. They would definitely make a lot of money. Therefore, on all the roads and small paths in Lantian County, farmers could be seen running wildly everywhere. It was like ants returning to their nest. The black mass of ants came from all directions and rushed towards their nest. Lantian County. On the street in front of the Lantian County's Yamen entrance, 3 rows of tables had already been set up. 1 row of tables faced the street in the west, another row faced the street in the east, and another row faced the street in the south. The farmers who came from all directions could line up in 3 different directions to register. This way, they could save a lot of time. County Magistrate. They're here. They're here. The commoners are here. But why did they bring their shovels and hoes over? County Magistrate, he led a group of county officials and waited at the entrance of the county yamen. Suddenly, the county official became excited as he hurriedly asked County Magistrate But after seeing the equipment of the farmers, the official was dumbfounded. If someone who wasn't in the know saw this, they would think that these commoners were coming to the county yamen to rebel. County Magistrate, he stroked his beard and said with a smile, "Let the bailiffs register properly and prevent commoners from other counties from mixing in. This is Marquis's kindness to our county's commoners. We can't let people from other counties take advantage of this. Understand?" The official hurriedly cupped his hands and said, "Yes." County Magistrate. While they were talking, dozens of farmers had already run over. Seeing the tables that had already been set up, the farmers understood the rules and lined up. There were 3 tables in each direction of the street. There were a total of 9 tables, which meant that they could line up in 9 lines. "Sir, I want to plant white stack flowers. I want to register. What's your name? Which village are you from?" "My name is Lu Meng, from Liujia Village." Good. I've already registered for you. Marquis will be able to buy the seeds back in half a month. Before that, you have to cultivate a moo of wasteland. It's best if it's a hillside that's facing the sun. That way, the harvest will be better. Do you understand? Understood. Understood. Thank you for your reminder. Next. The quiet entrance of the county yamen suddenly became lively. It was not an exaggeration to say that it was a boiling cauldron of voices. The commoners in Guangxing County who woke up early saw this scene and couldn't help but be stunned. "Hey, what are they doing? Why are they all gathered at the county yamen? It seems that they're all farmers from outside the county." "Farmers? What are they doing here at the county yamen?" I know. I just saw the notice at the county yamen. It said that Marquis intends to promote the planting of white stack flowers in Lantian County. Those who are willing to plant can register at the county yamen. As long as they can cultivate a moo of wasteland within the stipulated time, they will be able to get a gene of white stack flowers seeds for free. What? A gene of white stack flowers seeds for free? Is there such a good thing in this world? No, I want to register too. Boss Wang, what are you so happy about? Do you have any fields at home? Don't tell me you want to take the seeds and sell them for money. The notice said that after receiving the seeds, you have to sign an agreement with the county yamen. When the harvest time comes, the white stack flowers will belong to the commoners. However, all the seeds must be removed and handed over to the county yamen. If you don't hand it over, you will be fined 10 strings of coins. Boss Wang, if you receive it now, you will have to pay 10 strings of coins in the future. Oh, so that's how it is. Then this old man won't receive it. I'll leave the opportunity to these farmers. TSK. This time, the farmers outside the city are going to be rich. With a gene of seeds, the white stack flower seeds can be sold for dozens of strings of coins. Sigh, what a pity. Who asked us to not be farmers? At this moment, these city dwellers began to envy the farmers. It was really strange. As time passed, the lines of farmers in the three directions grew longer and longer. The line in the south was about to reach the city gates. Tens of thousands of farmers outside the city suddenly flooded into Lantian County. This city that wasn't considered big suddenly became crowded. Those businessmen who came to Lantian County to do business, or those who came to watch the football match, saw this scene and began to inquire about what had happened. It didn't matter if they didn't ask, but once they did, they were so shocked that their jaws dropped. Everyone couldn't help but sigh at the good welfare of the citizens of Lantian County. From time to time, Lisa Schwan would give red packets to the citizens. Furthermore, it was the kind of red packets that were worth hundreds of strings of coins. And the matter here quickly spread to the other counties. Chapter 1372. Have you heard? The Marquis of Yong and wants to give every farmer in Lantian County a caddy of white fold flower seeds for free. What? Why is Marquis giving so many white fold flower seeds to the farmers? Seeds. The Marquis said that the white stack flower catkins will belong to the farmers. The farmers can use them to make cotton-padded clothes or sell them for money. When the time comes, we just need a hand in the seeds. Oh my God, there's such a good thing. Can we get the flower seeds if we go? Tisk, in your dreams. We are from Shinfeng County, the Marquis of Yong, and only gives them to the farmers in Lantian County. Lantian County. It's Lantian County again. Last year, Marquis only promoted the greenhouse vegetables in Lantian County. At that time, the farmers who planted the greenhouse vegetables earned hundreds of strings of coins. A few months ago, when Marquis was building the dam, he also prioritized the young adults in Lantian County. I heard that not only are there meat for every meal, but the wages are also high. Now, Marquis wants to plant white fold flower seeds to make winter clothes for the people of Lantian County. Why didn't His Majesty give Shinfeng County to the Marquis of Yong? And as a fief. Sigh. Who said it wasn't? Last year, matchmaker Zhao recommended a kid from Lantian County to my daughter, but my wife didn't agree. Now, it's his turn to disagree. This prodigal woman. Ha! Old Wong, your wife has no taste. It's not that I want to criticize you, but this kind of woman needs to be taught a lesson. Yes, she needs to be taught a lesson. Ha! Serves you right for being unlucky. Look at my two daughters. They married to Lantian County at the beginning of the year. Now, they're living a good life. After the greenhouse vegetables and dam building incident, Lisa Schwan came up with another benefiting the people policy, which caused a huge uproar among the people in the surrounding counties of Chang'an. Although there were no newspapers to promote it, the current momentum of public opinion was even more terrifying than being on the headlines of the newspapers. Not only the people in the surrounding counties of Chang and city were discussing it, the people in Chang and city were also discussing it. At this moment, all the citizens only had one thought in their minds, and that was to regret that they were not Lantian people in this life. If he was also a citizen of Lantian County, then wouldn't he be able to enjoy the benefits of Lisa Schwan's benefiting the people policy? In an instant, countless people had a strong yearning for Lantian County. Of course, the ladies of the prestigious families in Chang and city finally understood who had bought all the white stack flowers in the West Market yesterday. The beauties couldn't help but sigh at Lisa Schwan's generosity. He actually used them as ornamental white flowers to make winter clothes for the people in his fief. What? Little Xian wanted the people in his fief to plant white stack flowers? What's the point of growing this thing? Do you want to watch? Cheng Yaojin had just finished the morning court when he heard the news. He stared at his second son, Cheng Chuyang, and asked. Cheng Chuyang's forehead was full of black lines. He said, "Father, even if the Marquis of Yong and wanted to see white stack flowers, he wouldn't go so far as to let his subordinates plant them all over Lantian County, right? I heard that he wanted the commoners to make winter clothes out of white paper." Oh, Cheng Yaoji nodded and suddenly laughed. Hey, this kid's idea is really strange. Using white paper to make clothes for the commoners? That's too extravagant. How many seeds did he say he wanted to buy? 10,000 caddies? TSK, TSK. 70 to 80,000 strings of coins. That's really generous. Cheng Chuyong asked tentatively, Father, then should we follow this time? Last year, when Li Zixuan promoted the planting of greenhouse vegetables in his fief, Old Cheng's and Old Qin's families also promoted it. Although there was a difference of half a month, their family's farmers earned a lot of money because of it. The Cheng family also gained a good reputation for being benevolent. Now that Li Zixuan wanted to promote the planting of white stack flowers, should the Cheng family follow? Cheng Yaojin frowned and said, White stack flowers are not easy to grow. Since little Xian dares to promote it, he might have a better way to grow it. As for 70 to 80,000 strings of coins, TSK, the Cheng family can't afford it. However, the Cheng family only has 700 farmers, and a caddy of seeds per family is only 700 caddies. After pondering for a moment, Cheng Yaojin gritted his teeth and said, Then we'll buy it. Chuyang, get Butler Liang to tell the barbarian merchants in Shi City to quickly find a way to get me 700 caddies of white stack flower seeds. Otherwise, I'll smash their shops. Li Zixuan needed a large amount of white stack flower seeds, so he could only find sea merchants. However, the Cheng family only needed a few hundred caddies of seeds, so the barbarian merchants could find a way to get it themselves. In order to survive in Cheng, and these barbarian merchants would definitely find a way to get Old Cheng so many seeds. Cheng Chuyong quickly replied, Yes, Father. I'll go tell the butler now. Hey, stop right there. Cheng Yaojin suddenly said, Kid, you have to go back to the study and study. In a few months, Yanwang College will be recruiting students. If you can't get in, I'll teach you a lesson. Cheng Chuyong shrunk his neck and said bitterly, Yes, Father. What? Li Zixuan wants to plant white stack flowers on a large scale in Lantian County? Just after morning court, Li Er heard this piece of news, and it was even personally sent by Li Changxian. Yes, Father. Not only have all the white stack flower seeds in Chang and city been bought by the Marquis of Yong, and according to what I know, he even sent a merchant ship to Guangdong to buy white stack flower seed from Nanyang Sea merchants. According to the notice in Lantian County, he wants to buy at least 10,000 caddies of seeds. Li Chengxian bowed and said, 10,000 caddies? This kid is really extravagant. Li Er muttered and sighed. After a moment, he said to Li Chengxian, No matter what, this is a move that benefits the people. In so many years, this is the first time I've heard of someone planting so many white stack flowers to make clothes for the people. However, isn't this kid afraid that the harvest won't be good and there won't be any harvest? I've heard that it's hard for white stack flowers to survive. Li Chengxian revealed a worried expression and said, I'm also worried about this. Ever since white stack flowers were introduced into the Central Plains during the Qin and Han dynasties, it was only used as an ornamental flower because of its low survival rate. The Marquis of Yong, and has good intentions in wanting to use white stack flowers to make clothes for the people, but I'm afraid that he won't even be able to recover the cost. After all, 70 to 80,000 strings of cash isn't a small sum. Li Er frowned and then said in relief, Haha, Chengxian, don't you know that kid's personality? He definitely won't do things that he isn't confident in. Last time, he was able to grow vegetables in the winter. This time, he can grow a large patch of white stack flowers in Lantian County. I don't find it strange at all. Li Chengxian's eyes lit up and said, Father is right. Perhaps the Marquis of Yong, and has a better method of growing white stack flowers. Therefore, I would like to ask Father to allow me to leave the palace. I would like to go to Yunshan to investigate. If it's really as Father thinks, then the people of Tang Empire won't have to suffer from the cold in the winter. Li Er thought for a moment and waved his hand and said, And then you could go after lunch. Li Chengxian said happily, Thank you, Father. Marquis, Steward Fu sent someone to deliver a cart of farm tools. Pang Feiji came in to report when Li Zixuan had just finished his meal. And it's done so quickly? Where are the things? Li Zixuan's eyes lit up as he quickly stood up and said, Marquis, it's just outside the door. Pang Feiji cupped his fists and said. Han Yushi looked confused and said, Husband, what kind of farm tools made you so happy? Huh, new farm tools. Wife, you'll know when you follow your husband. Li Zishuan smiled and then pulled Han Yushi out of the house. Brother, wait for me. Lana wants to go too. Lana rushed out of the room and quickly followed. Outside the courtyard, Li Zishuan saw more than 10 hand-pressed nutrition bowls piled up in the open space in front of the door. They looked exactly like this slimmer version of the pusher used to make honeycomb briquettes. Husband? What's this thing used for? Why does it look so much like the one used to make honeycomb briquettes? Han Yushi looked at the hand-pressed nutrition bowls on the ground and suddenly asked curiously, Brother, how do you play with this? Li Zishuan was about to speak when Lana picked up a bowl as if she had gotten a new toy. Then she looked at Li Zishuan and asked. Li Zishuan shook his head and looked at Han Yushi. He smiled and said, Wife, aren't you curious about what this is used for? Let your husband demonstrate it to you. Feiji, have you prepared the soil that I asked you to prepare earlier? Pang Feiji pointed to a mound in the east and said, replying to Marquis, it's already prepared. It's over there. It's all dug from the vegetable fields at the foot of the mountain. It's very fertile. Looks like Changle and I came at the right time. Just in time for a good show. After Pang Feiji finished speaking, a young man's voice suddenly came from the courtyard. Who else could it be other than Li Changqian? As for Changle, after hearing that Li Changqian was coming to Cloud Mountain, she quickly asked Li Er for a chance to leave the palace and followed along. Greetings to your highness. Greetings to your highness. The servants and guards of the Li family had all seen Li Changqian and Changle before, so they quickly bowed and greeted them. Li Zishuan, Han Yushi, and Lan Er also prepared to greet, but Li Changqian waved his hand and said, no need to be so polite. Xiao Xian, you don't need to be so polite either. Then he excitedly walked in front of Li Zishuan and asked, Xiao Xian, these farming tools of yours should be related to the planting of the white stack flower, right? Since Li Zishuan did not allow them to greet, then Li Zishuan would not be so bored as to do something unnecessary. However, after hearing Li Changqian's guess, a hint of surprise flashed across his eyes. He then praised, Changqian has good eyesight. You guessed right. This thing is indeed related to the planting of the white stack flower. Changle asked curiously, Brother Xiao Xian, what does this thing have to do with the white stack flower? Changle, look, why does this thing look like it's used to make honeycomb briquettes? Li Zishuan laughed and said, haha, let me demonstrate. Changle, you and Changqian will know after seeing it. Chapter 1373. This thing is called a nutrient bowl. By stuffing fertile soil into it and pushing it out like I am doing, you'll get cup-shaped mud cubes. These mud cubes are the nutrient bowls for the white stack flower seeds. If you press 2 seeds into the nutrient bowl, they will sprout in about 7 days. At the mound of soil next to the Yunshan residence, under the gaze of Li Changqian, Changle, Han Yushi, and the others, Li Zishuan showed himself to explain. First, he poked the alms bowl with all his might into the mound of soil. After it was filled with soil, he stepped on the push rod, and the soil was pushed out in the shape of a cup. This was a nutrition bowl. Then, Li Zishuan took out 2 seeds and pressed them into the circular pit in the center of the nutrient bowl. The entire process was completed. This is fun. Brother, Lan Er will help you. Seeing Li Zishuan easily make a cup-shaped mud cube, Lan Er's interest was immediately piqued. She excitedly rushed over to give it a try. Li Zishuan was speechless. You're just a little taller than the alms. How can you play with it? Go to the side and watch. Don't dirty your clothes. Lan Er pouted. I won't. Brother, you look down on me. Lana, it will make one for you to see. After saying that, the little girl imitated Li Zishuan's previous actions. She picked up the alms and poked it into the mound of dirt. This thing is indeed interesting. I will give it a try too. Perhaps the innocent Lan Er had awakened Li Changqian's childish nature. This fellow also eagerly picked up the alms and walked towards the mound of dirt. Brother Crown Prince, wait for me. Changle also wants to try. It was rare for Changle to come out, so she naturally wanted to play to her heart's content. She followed closely behind Li Chengxian with the alms and walked towards the mound of dirt with the alms. Your Highness, you can't. The leader of the Eastern Palace Guards who followed Li Chengxian hesitated for a moment before stepping forward to stop him. Li Chengxian waved his hand and said, "It's fine. I'm just giving it a try. There is no danger." When the guard heard that, he did not continue to stop him. "Brother Little Xian, can you teach Changle one more time?" Changle carried the alms bowl and walked to Li Zixuan's side, smiling sweetly. Looking at this bright and beautiful smile, how could Li Zixuan say no? He nodded helplessly and said, "All right then, Chengxian, Changle, I'll demonstrate to you again. First, push the alms bowl into the mound with all your strength. You must use all your strength, or else the soil won't be able to fill the alms bowl, and the nutrition bowl you push out will be incomplete." Bang, bang, bang. Li Zixuan, Changle, and Lanner all followed Li Zixuan and poked the alms bowl into the mound. After a while, Li Zixuan continued, "When you think it's about time, step on this push rod and push the dirt out. Yes, that's it. It might take some effort." "Wow, I'm done. Brother Little Xian, take a look and see if this nutrition bowl is done correctly." Unexpectedly, Changle had finished it before Li Chengxian. The little girl held the freshly made nutrition bowl in her hands and came to Li Zixuan, asking excitedly, Very well done. The shape is very standard, and the soil is very sturdy." Li Zixuan nodded and praised. Thank you for your praise, Brother Little Xian." After receiving Li Zixuan's affirmation, Changle's beautiful little face instantly beamed like a flower. At this moment, Li Chengxian's first nutrition bowl was also completed. However, it was a failure with a bumpy bottom and an incomplete exterior. It was obvious that Li Chengxian did not use enough strength when filling the soil inside. "Chengxian, this is about the same level as Lanner's. I think you have to find time to train, or else your body will only become weaker and weaker. Look at your physical strength now. It's not even as good as Changle's." Upon seeing this, Li Zixuan immediately teased. Li Chengxian immediately blushed and retorted, "A Little Xian, what nonsense are you talking about? I just didn't do it seriously just now. If you don't believe me, I'll make another one for you." As a man, he could not tolerate others saying that he was weak. In order to protect his dignity as a man, Li Chengxian resolutely began the second nutrition bowl's production. Bam, bam, bam. This time, Li Chengxian peeled with all his might. From the looks of it, he could not wait to crush the entire cloud mountain. With a clang, a flawless nutrition bowl was pushed out from the bowl-making device. Li Chengxian immediately said proudly, "Hey, Little Xian, how was it? I told you that it was just a coincidence, right?" After saying that, he could not help but secretly take 2 deep breaths. Speaking of which, he had been learning how to rule the country from the air all day long in the palace. He indeed lacked training. Li Zixuan saw through him, but did not expose him. He did not refute him. Li Chengxian put down the bowl-making device and asked, "Little Xian, you still haven't said why you want to plant the seeds in this nutrition bowl?" This prince feels that it's more convenient to just directly bury the seeds in the ground. Hearing Li Chengxian's question, Changle also stopped what she was doing and shifted her gaze to Li Zixuan. Clearly, she had the same doubts as Li Chengxian. Li Zixuan muttered to himself for a moment and said, "Simply speaking, for the white dye seed to germinate, it needs sufficient nutrients, water, and suitable temperature. If the seeds were directly buried in the ground, then there is a possibility that less than 1 in 10 will survive. This is because the nutrients in the ground might not be enough. Furthermore, the night is still a little cold. This is why the survival rate of the white dye seed is so low." Li Chengxian nodded his head as if he understood and then asked, "Little Xian, the reason why this thing is called a nutrition bowl is because the nutrients in the soil are very sufficient, right?" Li Zixuan nodded his head and praised, "That's right. The nutrients in the nutrition bowl are indeed very sufficient. This is because the soil inside is the most fertile soil and can provide sufficient nutrients for the germination of the white dye seed. Secondly, once the seeds are planted, I will instruct people to put the seeds together with a nutrition bowl into the greenhouse. This way, it won't be frozen at night and the moisture in the soil won't evaporate too quickly. This way, not only will the survival rate of the seeds greatly increase, the germination time will also be greatly reduced. Once it germinates, it can be transplanted into the field along with a nutrition bowl. There were two advantages to using this method. First, it saved on seeds. This method only required less than a caddy of seeds to grow 1 mu of white stack seed. The other method, which was the most primitive method, required about 3 caddies of seeds to grow 1 mu of land. Second, it can increase the harvest. Because using this method, the seeds can absorb sufficient nutrients during the germination stage, so the buds will generally be thicker. In the end, for the same white dye seed, this method of growing white dye seed will increase the flower catkins by at least 30%. When Li Chengxian heard this, he widened his eyes in shock and said, "Before coming here, my imperial father guessed that Xiao Xian might have grasped an even more powerful planting method. I didn't expect it to be like this." According to Xiao Xian, this year's white dye seed harvest in Lantian County will definitely give everyone a huge surprise. Changle also nodded her head and said, "Brother Xiao Xian, if your method is feasible, then it will completely solve the problem of the low survival rate of the white dye seed. In the future, the other provinces and counties in Great Tang can also follow this method. This way, the white dye seed will be popularized in Great Tang and become the third most important crop after rice and wheat. When that time comes, the commoners really won't lack clothes to wear and won't suffer from the cold in winter." When she finished speaking, Changle's eyes sparkled as if she was looking at a hero. She looked at Li Zixuan with a face full of worship. Li Chengxian clapped his hands and said, "That's right. Once there are more white dye seed, it will naturally not be as expensive as before. When that time comes, the commoners will be able to buy some white dye seed catkins to make cotton-padded clothes. Xiao Xian, if this method is successful, your merit will be immeasurable." Li Zixuan smiled faintly and said, "Whether it will succeed or not, we will only know after we try it. But the final effect will definitely not be too bad." After saying that, Li Zixuan distributed the alms bowl utensils that Faubert had sent over to the servants and guards to make the nutrition alms bowls. Of course, this labor was not free. The wages were added to their monthly allowance. Speaking of which, he now had 200 jin of white dye seed. If he planted all of them, he could plant at least 200 to 300 mu. Therefore, the servants and guards of the Li residence would be very busy this time. "Ai, Xiao Xian, did you notice that Changle's physical strength is really much better than before?" Li Zixuan called everyone into the house. Li Chengxian dragged Li Zixuan to the back. At this moment, he suddenly said sneakily. Li Zixuan looked carefully and saw that although Changle had personally made a few nutrition alms bowls, her complexion was still normal. Her face was not red, and her heart was not out of breath. Indeed, as Li Chengxian said, her physical strength was much better than before. He turned his head to look at Li Chengxian and joked, "What? Chengxian, do you admit that your physical strength is not as good as Changle's?" Generally, a weak body means a weak kidney. This kidney deficiency is not scary, but you have to pay attention to recuperation and exercise. Stop. Li Chengxian almost vomited blood. He hurriedly said, "Xiao Xian, you are the one with a weak kidney. Ai, I'm talking to you about serious matters. Don't interrupt. Get to the point." Li Zixuan put away his smile and said seriously, "Changle has my Taoist qi in her body now. Although she has not learned fighting moves, her physical strength is naturally much stronger than ordinary people. This is not surprising. A few months ago, Changle's qi disease flared up. Li Zixuan used his own qi to cure it. In addition, Changle usually practiced Tai Chi very seriously, so she had already cultivated qi. With Li Zixuan's help, she unexpectedly succeeded in drawing qi into her body. This was the main reason why her physical strength was much stronger than before. Li Chengxian suddenly understood. "Oh, so that's how it is. Xiao Xian, is internal qi really so miraculous? Li Zixuan glanced at him and said with a smile, miraculous or not, Cheng Xian, won't you know once you practice it? It can also cure your kidney deficiency. AI. Who has kidney deficiency? Who has kidney deficiency? Xiao Xian, stop right there. Li Cheng Xian said angrily. Chapter 1374. Li Chengxian and Changle stayed on Cloud Mountain for less than 2 hours before returning to the palace. After all, they could not leave the palace for too long. Li Zixuan called Pang Feiji over and said, Feiji, bring some men and call all the farmers in Lantian County over. When the time comes, bring them along and learn how to make the nutrition bowl. After they learn it, go back and teach it to the farmers in the village. After a while, the white fold seed flower will be planted. All the farmers who receive the seeds must use this method to plant the white fold seed flower. Pang Feiji cupped his fists and said, Yes, Marquis. After saying that, he brought a dozen personal guards and rode down Cloud Mountain. Not long after Pang Feiji left, a woman came to the courtyard of Cloud Mountain and said that she wanted to see Li Zixuan. Li Zixuan brought Han Yushi out to meet her. Only then did he know that this woman was Ku Shirqing's mother. She was here to send a message to Li Zixuan, saying that Ku Shirqing had already left for Bashu in the afternoon. Ku Shirqing's father, because he was worried, also followed along. Li Zixuan and Han Yushi comforted Ku Shirqing's mother, telling her that Ku Shirqing would be taken care of by Gao Shilian when he arrived there, so she did not have to worry. Ku Shirqing's mother stayed on Cloud Mountain for a while before leaving. Her back view looked very bleak. After all, her husband and son had gone far away, and might even encounter danger. Of course she was worried. Husband, you sent your students so far away. Aren't you worried that they will encounter danger? Back in the house, Han Yushi looked at Li Zixuan and asked. Li Zixuan was stunned, then sighed and said, Of course I'm worried, but what's the use of worrying? These children have to bear what they should bear. If they don't experience some things, they will never grow. Evening Sweet Dew Hall. Li Zixuan really said that? Li Chengxian told Li Er everything he saw and heard on Cloud Mountain in the afternoon. Li Er could not hide his shock and asked Li Chengxian. Li Chengxian clasped his hands and said, Absolutely true. Imperial Father Li Zixuan personally said that if we use his nutrient bowl planting method, we can save at least 3 times the amount of seeds per moo, and the harvest can also increase by at least 30%. Hearing this, Li Er nodded his head. Although he did not show it on his face, his heart was in turmoil. If this method was really so magical, then that caddy of seeds would be able to harvest nearly 4 times the amount of white stack flower catkins. This wasn't a small improvement. It directly solved the key problem of the white stack flower survival and low production. Let's let Li Zixuan give it a try first. If his method is successful, then the people of Great Tang will be able to afford to wear clothes made of white silk. This matter will end here. Chengxian, you don't need to worry about this. Yes, Father. Li Chengxian cupped his hands and said respectfully. At this moment, Zhao Song rushed in from outside the hall and bowed. Your Majesty, something's wrong. Li Er's face turned solemn as he asked. What's the matter? Zhao Song replied. Your Majesty, Tili Khan has sent an envoy requesting to surrender to Great Tang. The envoy has already been arranged to stay in the Honglu Temple's post house. They will pay respects to your Majesty in the morning court tomorrow. What? Tili sent an envoy to the court? Li Er's face suddenly changed. He asked in a deep voice, what happened to the Turks? How dare Tuli openly rebel against Xieli and surrender to Great Tang? Li Chengxian's face also became tense as he stared at Zhao Song without blinking. Zhao Song bowed slightly and said, Your Majesty, according to the spies at the beginning of this year, Xieli suddenly recruited soldiers from Tuli Khan. Due to Tuli Khan's failure in suppressing Shui Yintuo, the Shi, and the Guis, he was imprisoned and whipped by Xieli Khan. Tuli Khan held a grudge, so he did not lend any soldiers to Xieli this time. When Xieli Khan heard the news, He was furious and directly sent troops to attack Tuli Khan. Tuli Khan's strength was not enough. Seeing that the royal court was in danger, he sent an envoy to Great Tang for help. Tuli's son, Ashina Heluo, is also in the envoy. Li Er's eyes flashed, and his expression gradually eased. He sighed softly and said, "The Turks are actually having internal strife? This is really a heaven-sent opportunity." Then he looked at Zhao Song and ordered, "Tomorrow morning, let Tuli's envoy enter the court for an audience." "Yes, Your Majesty," Zhao Song responded, then said, "Your Majesty, today a student from Yinhuang College left the capital and is heading to Bashu." "Bashu?" Li Er's heart skipped a beat. Then he smiled and said, "This student is probably going to Bashu because of Li Zishuan's vanadium mine there, right? Don't worry about them. Li Zishuan students are always able to surprise me. Last time, it was Meng Wenhao and Han Li. Let's see what kind of surprise this child can bring me this time." "Oh, right. Immediately send someone to inform Li Zishuan to attend tomorrow's court." "Yes, Sai. Why do you think His Majesty wants me to attend court for no reason?" TSK. Doesn't he know that I live far away? I'll have to travel through the night again today." The next morning, before dawn, Li Zishuan was already dressed and washed up with Han Yushi's help. Although he wasn't sleepy, he had to leave before dawn. Li Zishuan couldn't help but grumble softly. When Han Yushi heard that, she couldn't help but giggle. She helped Li Zishuan comb his hair and said with a smile, "Husband, other people have studied hard for decades in hopes of being able to enter the imperial court one day. But why do you look like you have a deep grudge when you hear that you have to attend morning court?" Li Zishuan pinched Han Yushi's fair fingers and said with a naughty smile, "What does the poem say? Oh, it's the harem of 3,000 beauties. From then on, the emperor won't attend morning court. As for your husband, he only needs you, my wife, so he's too lazy to attend morning court. How can those fame and fortune be more important than the wife in my arms? My wife, don't you think so?" Han Yushi's tender face turned red. She hurriedly shook off Li Zishuan's big hand and said angrily, "Husband, you're talking nonsense again. Don't move. Let me help you comb your hair quickly. Don't miss the time." Okay. I'll listen to my wife." Li Zishuan knew that Han Yushi couldn't resist teasing. After saying that, he was no longer naughty. At this time, Han Yushi suddenly said, "Husband, you should think of it this way. With your current rank and status, you should attend morning court every day. It's His Majesty who saw that you have multiple positions and that the Yunshan residence you live in is quite far from the imperial palace. That's why he specially allowed you to not attend morning court every day. So, you should be grateful to His Majesty." My wife's words make sense. Li Zishuan's eyes lit up and said with a smile, "If that's the case, then I have the motivation to attend morning court." Confucius was right. Behind every successful man, there's a good woman. Han Yushi patted Li Zishuan's back and said unhappily, "Husband, you're talking nonsense again. When did Confucius say that?" "Okay, husband, your hair is done. Go and have some food. Otherwise, you'll definitely be hungry after standing in court for so long." My wife is so considerate." After coming out of the gentle home, Li Zishuan and Pang Feiji rode together and became a pair of brothers in distress. They held torches and rushed through the night. Oh, strictly speaking, this wasn't called the night road. Perhaps it should be called the dawn road, the last trace of darkness before dawn. Fortunately, the road from Yunshan to Chang and had been paved with cement. Otherwise, no matter how good one's horsemanship was, they wouldn't dare to ride on the rugged mountain road like before. Otherwise, they would definitely fall into the ravines. After rushing for a while, they finally arrived at the east gate of Chang and city before the city gates opened. The master and servant waited for less than a quarter of an hour outside the city gates before the city guards opened the gates. Li Zishuan and Pang Feiji hurriedly urged their horses to enter and then galloped towards the imperial palace. "Yo, Xiao Xian, why are you here for morning court today?" After entering the palace, they arrived at Taiji Hall. There were already many people gathered here, including Cheng Yaojin and Qin Xiong. Seeing Li Zixuan, this rare guest, Cheng Yaojin walked over with a face full of surprise. He patted Li Zixuan's shoulder and laughed. Speaking of which, old Cheng was able to come to court so early because of his bicycle. Cheng Yaojin could be considered an expert in bicycles now. He could even ride a bicycle with one hand. Sometimes he could even use both hands to leave the handlebars. What's more, when Cheng Yaojin rode his bicycle, it was even more ferocious than when he rode a horse. Everyone was afraid of him. Actually, he was not the only one who rode a bicycle. Among the civil and military officials, those who were slightly wealthier had almost all bought bicycles. After all, bicycles were faster and more convenient than horse carriages. They could go wherever they wanted with just a pedal. Moreover, they did not have to feed the horses. It was worth mentioning that the palace was also keeping up with the times. They had specially built a parking lot outside the palace gates for the officials. When Li Zixuan found out about this, he felt a sense of accomplishment and was overjoyed for a long time. This was because he had brought a little change to this era. "Good morning, Uncle Cheng." Li Zixuan greeted Cheng Yaojin and replied, "Yesterday, His Majesty sent someone to Yunshan to inform me that I must attend today's court meeting. I dare not come." "Oh, His Majesty sent someone to inform you?" Cheng Yaojin's eyes flashed, and his expression became serious as he asked. Li Zixuan nodded and said, "Yes." "Oh, right, Uncle Cheng, did something big happen in the court these 2 days? Is that why His Majesty asked me to come? Can you tell me what happened in the imperial court?" Cheng Yaojin hesitated and said, "It's both a good and bad thing. Sigh, you'd better ask second brother Qin." Li Zixuan was baffled. He turned to look at Qin Xiong and asked, "Uncle Qin, what happened? Why is Uncle Cheng being so secretive?" Qin Xiong sighed deeply and said, "Shelley Khan sent troops to attack Tuli. Tuli came as an envoy and asked Tang Empire to send troops to help. He is also willing to surrender to Tang Empire." Li Zixuan was stunned when he heard this. He was puzzled and said, Then isn't this a good thing? Why does Uncle Cheng say that it's both a good and bad thing?" Chapter 1375. Little Xian, this Tuli Kaghan is the son of Shibi Kaghan, known as the Little Kaghan of the Eastern Turks. But his Kaghan title is just a title, and his strength is not strong. The power has always been in the hands of his father and uncle. In the second year of Wuda, Shibi Kaghan died of illness. The one who took the throne was not Tuli, but Tuli's uncle Silafoshi, Chuluo Kaghan. In the fourth year of Wuda, Chuluo Kaghan died, and Tuli's other uncle took the throne aggressively. He is the current Shelley Kaghan. Shelley appointed Tuli as the Little Kaghan, in charge of the Khitan, Swanee, and other departments. Because Tuli Kaghan did not have a fixed tax on his subordinates resented him. Because of this, many tribes submitted to the Great Tang, such as Shui Yinta, Shi, and Swanee. Shelley Kaghan sent Tuli Kaghan to suppress these tribes. Tuli Kaghan was defeated, and his soldiers were scattered in disorder. It is said that Shelley Kaghan was furious and imprisoned him, whipping him for a long time before releasing him. Tuli suffered such a great humiliation, so he naturally harbored a grudge against Shelley. From then on, the uncle and nephew of the Eastern Turks entered a state of open strife and covert struggle. Tuli suddenly sent an envoy to the court to beg for peace. He must be unable to withstand Shelley's offensive and wants the Great Tang to send troops to help him out of the siege. But in this situation, if my Great Tang were to rashly dispatch soldiers, it would be tantamount to declaring a full-scale war with Shelley. The Eastern Turks are currently at the height of their national strength, possessing 1 million soldiers. If the Great Tang wanted to declare a full-scale war with them and win, how could it be so easy? We must make sufficient preparations before we can start this war. Otherwise, defeat is certain, but there is not much time left for the Great Tang. Today, Tuli sent an envoy to the court, proving that his forces can no longer withstand Shelley Kaghan's attack. Being destroyed and annexed is only a matter of time. And the great Tang cannot sit by and watch Tuli be annexed like this. Otherwise, Shelly will become even stronger. So it is difficult, very difficult. Let's see what decision His Majesty will make today. In front of the Taiji Palace, Qin Xiong estimated that there was still some time before the court, so he told Li Zixuan about Tuli's envoy. Oh, I see. After hearing this, Li Zixuan finally had a rough understanding of the current situation of the Eastern Turks. To be honest, before this, he didn't even know who Tuli Khan was or which faction he belonged to. He only knew Shelly Khan. There was nothing he could do about it. Who asked this guy to be so famous? Now that he heard Qin Xiong's explanation, he had a good grasp of the current situation. The Eastern Turks were in internal strife, but the great Tang was still not ready to go to war with them. As for Tuli Khan, in front of Shelly Khan, he was but a small grasshopper, unable to resist for long. Morning court. All civil and military officials enter the court for an audience. At this moment, an old eunuch stood on the steps and shouted in a high-pitched voice. The civil and military officials at the foot of the steps immediately fell silent. They straightened their clothes, hugged their tablets, and walked up the steps toward Taiji Palace. Entering the Taiji Palace, after a round of greeting, a Turk stepped out from the crowd and bowed to Lier. His Majesty the Emperor of the Great Tang, Shelly Khan has disregarded my late Khan's feelings, disregarded the relationship between uncle and nephew, and openly sent troops to attack my father Khan. I beseech His Majesty the Emperor of the Great Tang to send troops to aid my father Khan. Ashina Ilhan will be staying in Chang, and as a hostage. Hearing this, the civil and military officials looked at each other in dismay. Lier asked in a deep voice, "You are Tuli Khan's second son?" The Turk cupped his fists and said, "Your Majesty, this one is indeed my father's son. I have come to the Great Tang to request assistance and surrender. In order to express my father's sincerity, Ashina Heluo is willing to remain in Chang, and as a hostage to express my father's sincerity in surrendering to the Great Tang, sending a son into the court as a hostage." All the civil and military officials sucked in a mouthful of cold air, thinking that Tuli was really going all out this time. At the same time, this also meant that Tuli Khan had been forced into a corner by Shelly. Otherwise, he wouldn't have staked everything and wholeheartedly submitted to the Great Tang. After a moment of silence in the hall, Lier said, "Since I ascended the throne, I have ruled the country with benevolence and righteousness, and I have treated my friends well. Ashina Heluo, you don't have to mention the matter of a hostage again. My Great Tang doesn't need anyone as a hostage. This is really detrimental to my Huaxia's prestige. Furthermore, I have some friendship with Tuli in the past. How can I take advantage of this and take his son as a hostage?" Speaking of which, Ashina Heluo was also a straightforward person. How could he say, "I am here to be your hostage," in front of the emperor? Normally, this kind of thing was tacitly understood, and no one would directly say it. Old Li was the ruler of Huaxia, so how could he not care about his face? However, Lier's saying that he had some friendship with Tuli Khan was also true. In the 7th year of Wuda, the Turkic Great Khan Shelly Khan and Tuli Khan gathered all their forces and invaded the Great Tang's borders. At that time, the Great Tang Emperor Li Yuan sent Lier out to defend against the Turks on the 21st day of the 7th month. On the 12th day of the 8th month, the two sides clashed at Wulongbin, which was known in history as the Battle of Wulongbin. Li Shimin used the strategy of sowing discord, working together with Tuli Khan to drive a wedge between Shelly Khan and Tuli Khan, and became sworn brothers with Tuli Khan, causing the Turks to retreat. It did not matter whether Lier and Tuli's friendship was due to the situation, or whether it was feigning civility, or because of benefits, or whether it was sincere friendship, but in the end the two of them became sworn brothers. It was an indisputable fact. Although this kind of thing sounded inconceivable to other people, hearing Lier's words, Ashina Heluo was first stunned, and then he immediately wanted to refute. After all, when he left the Turks, his father had instructed him to do so. He had to complete the task his father had given him. Who knew that Lier seemed to know what he was going to say next, and spoke first. Ashina Heluo, you don't need to say anything more. We will not take you as a hostage. However, if you like the prosperity of Chang and want to stay in Chang for a while, we naturally have no reason to refuse. Ashina Heluo's wooden brain finally reacted at this moment. He hurriedly cupped his fists and said, "Many thanks to the great Tang Emperor for taking me in. Ashina Heluo is willing to stay in Chang and for a while. I only hope that the great Tang Emperor can send troops to rescue my father. When the time comes, my father will definitely remember your majesty's kindness and lead his troops to surrender to the great Tang Empire, joining the court and submitting to your majesty." Lier's eyes narrowed as he said in a deep voice, "In the past, the Turks had internal strife and relied on the power of the Sui dynasty to stabilize. However, Sheli Khan did not know how to cherish the situation left behind by his ancestors. Instead, he relied on his own strength to indulge his own desires. He was licentious and tyrannical, and his uncle and nephew killed each other. This is truly against the laws of nature. However, sending troops to the Turks is a matter of great importance. We need to discuss it with the court officials before we can make a decision. Ashina Heluo, you have traveled a long way from the Turks and must be exhausted. Why don't you return to the inn and rest for a while? After we have discussed with the court officials, we will send someone to inform you." Hearing this, Ashina Heluo thought seriously before finally cupping his fists and saying, "Yes, your majesty." Ashina Heluo will take his leave. After that, he clenched his fists in front of his chest and bowed to Lier. Then, he brought the two Turk emissaries and left the hall. After Ashina Heluo left, Lier's eyes darkened as he looked at the court officials and asked, "Dear officials, do you think that our Tang Empire should send troops to aid Tuli?" Regarding Tuli's request for help, Lier himself was both happy and fearful. He was happy that the internal strife of the Eastern Turks had caused the Tang Empire's northwest border to have a rare moment of peace. However, he was fearful that if Tuli was destroyed and Sheli became the sole ruler, then it would be difficult for the Tang Empire to destroy the Turks in the future. The court officials were silent for a long time. Finally, Zhang Sun Wuji could not help but step out and say, "Your Majesty, this old official thinks that it is not suitable to send troops now. 2 years ago, our Tang Empire had just signed an agreement with Sheli not to attack each other. Now, without Sheli Khan's invasion, if we were to go back on our word and send troops, not only would it be a waste of manpower and resources, but it would also not be the army of a king." Hearing this, Lier's face instantly fell. Indeed, the Wei River Alliance back then was the biggest obstacle for him to send troops to the Turks. The Tang Empire, as a dynasty in the Central Plains and a country of etiquette, had to have a reason for doing things. They could not be like the Turks, who could fight whoever they wanted to fight. Even if they killed their brothers, no one would blame them. The Tang Empire was particular about sending troops with a reason. Most of the court officials would not allow Lier to do something as treacherous as going against the agreement. Duke Zhao is right. It is indeed not suitable to send troops now. This old official agrees. This official agrees. After Zhang Sun Wuji said that, there were immediately voices of agreement in the court. Bullsh asterisk T. Bullsh asterisk T. What Bullsh asterisk T agreement? Let me, old Chung, ask all of you, if Sheli is free now and has sufficient provisions, do you think he will care about the agreement back then? Will he send troops to invade our Tang Empire? Although Cheng Yaojin also knew that now was not the best time for the Tang Empire to send troops, but seeing so many officials talking about the Wei River Alliance back then, he could not help but stand up and scold. The Wei River Alliance was not only the shame of Lier's life, it was also the shame of Cheng Yaojin's life. Duke Liu, why are you spouting such vulgar words in the court? Furthermore, our Tang Empire is a country of etiquette and etiquette. When we go to war, we have a reason for sending troops. How can this be a game? Zhang Sun Wuji pulled a long face and reprimanded Cheng Yaojin. Cheng Yaojin immediately snorted and said, Bullsh asterisk T, sending troops with a reason. According to what you said, We can only wait for that brat Xieli to bring troops to Chang and city before we can retaliate? Cheng Jijia, don't be unreasonable in the imperial court. Zhang Sun Wuji's eyes were dark as he said coldly, Your Majesty, this old official thinks that although Duke Lu's words are vulgar, they are not without reason. At this moment, someone from the court officials' camp actually stood up and spoke for Cheng Yaojin. It was Du Ruhui. Chapter 1376. Oh, Minister Du also thinks that I should send troops to attack Xieli? Inside the Taiji Palace, Du Ruhui walked out of the crowd. Lier's eyes lit up as he asked with a smile. Lier knew better than anyone that the Tang Empire was not ready for a full-scale war with the Turks. But it was one thing to not be ready and another to not dare to fight. As long as the decision was made to fight, the entire Tang Empire would take action and prepare for war very quickly. Du Ruhui cupped his hands and said, Your Majesty, I think what High Duke Lu said is reasonable. The Tang Empire does not need to be honest with Xieli because he will violate the treaty sooner or later. Now that the Turks are in chaos, it is the best time to attack. Moreover, attacking countries with civil strife has been the custom since ancient times. The Tang Empire cannot be timid because of the treaty and miss the opportunity. Fong Mao Du Duan lived up to his name. Du Ruhui had sharp eyes and directly asserted that the treaty was a piece of waste paper in the eyes of the Turks. As soon as Du Ruhui finished speaking, Cheng Yaojin immediately said excitedly, Hee, old Du, in the past, I, old Cheng, didn't realize that you were also a tough nut to crack. I, old Cheng, cherish you. Hee. Today, I, old Cheng, would like to apologize to you for my blind eyes. When you get better, I, old Cheng, would like to treat you to a drink. After saying that, he patted Du Ruhui's shoulder gently, looking very intimate, as if they were good brothers who had known each other for many years. Du Ruhui's mouth twitched slightly and then moved 2 steps to the side imperceptibly to keep a safe distance from Cheng Yaojin. Then, he cupped his hands and said expressionlessly, High Duke Lu, I'm just talking about the matter. It has nothing to do with personal friendship. Please conduct yourself with dignity. Hey, good. I conduct myself with dignity. Cheng Yaojin was rebuffed. He could only rub his nose and laugh dryly before returning to his original position. This was just a small episode. At this time, seeing that Cheng Yaojin was no longer making a fuss, Fong Xinling stepped out from the crowd and cupped his hands. Your Majesty, I think that Kemming's words are reasonable. Now that the Turks are in internal strife, it is a heaven-sent opportunity for the Tang Empire. When Xieli's army was at the city gate, the reason why he signed the treaty with the Tang Empire was that he could not figure out the real situation of Chang and did not dare to attack the city rashly. He definitely did not want to be friends with the Tang Empire forever. The Turkic foreigners have been eyeing our central plains for many years. Once they are ready, or our great Tang falls into internal strife, they will definitely disregard the treaty and attack the great Tang. Therefore, instead of waiting for Xieli to attack us, it would be better to immediately organize our forces and attack Xieli. Right now, our great Tang has many soldiers and generals. We have sufficient provisions and fodder. After 3-4 months of serious preparation, we will definitely have a strength to fight Xieli. Otherwise, when the Tuli Kagan is destroyed and Xieli's clan becomes the strongest, when my great Tang attacks Xieli again, who knows how many of our men will die? Lier nodded. Just as he was about to speak, Kong Ingda stepped forward and said, Your Majesty, I think this is inappropriate. The great Tang is the highest country in the Celestial Empire, a country of etiquette and propriety. How can we commit such a treacherous act? Even if Xieli secretly harbors evil intentions, as long as he doesn't take the initiative to attack and doesn't violate the treaty, then we can't rashly attack. Otherwise, where is the prestige of the imperial court? Where is your Majesty's propriety? In the future, who will believe the promises of our great Tang? Zhang Sun Wuji also clasped his hands and said, Chancellor Kong is right. Since the Great Tang is a country of gentlemen, it must have the demeanor of a gentleman. This time, if we attack first, although we can win the initiative, we will also be spurned by the world. At that time, the righteous army will become an unreasonable army, and the other neighboring countries will no longer believe in the promises of our Great Tang. To the Great Tang, the gains won't make up for the losses. Moreover, even if we don't attack the Turkic Khaganate now, we can also secretly make preparations, recruit troops, and store up provisions. Once the Turkic Khaganates break the treaty or do something that violates the treaty, it won't be too late for us to attack them then. Even if the Tuli Khagan is destroyed and Shelley's clan becomes the strongest, we have sufficient preparations and may not lose to them. Buzz, I second the motion. The Great Tang cannot lose its face. Your Majesty's propriety cannot be lost. The Imperial Court can secretly mobilize troops, but we definitely cannot take the initiative to break the treaty. Minister of Revenue Xiao Yu stepped forward and clasped his hands. I second the motion. After Kong Ingda and Zhongsun Wuji finished speaking, the civil and military officials in the Imperial Court seemed to have woken up from a dream, and more officials voiced their agreement. Cheng Yaojin, Fang Xianling, and Du Ruhui seemed to be a little weak and helpless. This point had nothing to do with factional struggles. In the early days of the Tang Dynasty, there were basically no factional struggles in the Imperial Court. The reason why these officials didn't agree with the Imperial Court sending troops wasn't because they wanted to stand on the same side as Zhongsun Wuji, but because what Zhongsun Wuji and Kong Ingda said made sense. A country's promise. If the Great Tang went back on its word, it could gain a little advantage in the war against the Turks, but it would lose the country's prestige. This was something that couldn't be made up for. Li Zishuan, who was in the civil official camp, couldn't help but frown. Although he was also in the pro-war camp, he had to admit that what Zhongsun Wuji and Kong Ingda said made sense. As a country in the Central Plains, they naturally had to pay attention to the country's prestige and couldn't go back on their words. Otherwise, if they lost their prestige and caused other countries to no longer believe in the Great Tang, this loss would be too great. After all, although the Great Tang was strong now, it wasn't strong enough to contend against all the countries in the world and didn't need any allies. How could Lier, who was sitting high above, not see the current situation in the Imperial Court? He knew that the Great Tang couldn't send troops to reinforce Tuli in the current situation. He frowned and pondered for a long time. Just as he was about to announce that they wouldn't send troops, a guard ran in from outside and bowed with cupped fists. Reporting, Your Majesty, the envoy sent by the Khitan chieftain has arrived outside the palace. At the same time, the envoy sent by Khan Shelley has also arrived. The moment he finished speaking, all the civil and military officials in the Imperial Court were dumbfounded. What? The Khitans and Khan Shelley have both sent envoys? What are they trying to do? What is Shelley trying to do? A few minutes ago, Tuli's son and the envoy had just left the Imperial Palace. But now, the Khitan tribe, under Tuli's jurisdiction and Tuli's sworn enemy, Khan Shelley, had both sent envoys. The morning court of the Great Tang had never been as lively as it was today. In truth, it wasn't just the officials who were dumbfounded. Lier, who was sitting on the dragon throne, was also somewhat dumbfounded. Old Li closed his eyes and pondered for a while. Suddenly, he ordered, "Let the Khitan envoy come in and see us." Understood. The guard cupped his fists in acknowledgement, and then turned to leave Taiji Palace. Not long after, the guard led 3 Turks into Taiji Palace. When the 3 saw Lier, they respectfully bowed to him like a Han. The leader of the Khitan tribe spoke in a clear voice with a broken Han accent. Chimi Liangwu of the Khitan tribe pays respects to His Majesty, the Emperor of the Great Tang. Dispense with the formalities. Lier waved his hand and asked directly, "Why has the Khitan tribal chief Pyre and the others come to the court?" Chimi Liangwu bowed and said, "Replying to His Majesty the Emperor of the Great Tang, Chimi Liangwu is here on behalf of our tribal chief to express our loyalty to the Great Tang court." Our tribal chief has already led his tribe from Yunzhou into the Great Tang several days ago, and is now rushing toward Chang. He hopes that your majesty can take in the Khitan tribe. The entire Khitan tribe is willing to pledge their loyalty to your majesty. After Khan Shieli, the Khitan tribe of the Eastern Turks was also going to submit to the Great Tang. Everyone in the main hall widened their eyes and exclaimed inwardly in disbelief. In one day, two major factions of the Eastern Turks were going to submit to the Great Tang. Was the Turks really divided to such an extent? Lier did not let the joy get to his head. His eyes darkened as he barked. The Khitan tribe can be considered a fairly strong tribe among the Eastern Turks. Why is your Khitan tribal chief leading his tribe to submit to the Great Tang for no reason? Chimi Liangwu hurriedly said, replying to His Majesty the Emperor of the Great Tang. The Khitan tribe was originally under the jurisdiction of Khan Shieli, but this year the conflict between Khan Shieli and Khan Shieli has been deepening day by day. Recently, they have even clashed with each other. Khan Shieli ordered my tribe to attack Khan Shieli, but my Khitan tribal chief was once greatly indebted to Khan Shibi, so how could I harm his descendant? Thus, my tribal chief did not accept the order, but to prevent Khan Shieli from sending his troops for revenge, he could only bring all his tribe to submit to the Great Tang. We implore your majesty to take in the Khitan tribe. Buzz. Everyone in the imperial court was pleasantly surprised. The strength of the Khitan tribe was not ordinary. Their tribal chief had led his tribe to submit to the Great Tang, weakening the strength of the Eastern Turks and indirectly increasing the strength of the Great Tang. For such a good thing to happen, it could only be said that the heavens were protecting the Great Tang. So that's how it is. Understanding dawned on Lier. After pondering for a moment, he sighed and said, your tribal chief can also be considered a righteous person. Since Shieli cannot tolerate you, then, as the Emperor of the Great Tang, I welcome you to submit to the Great Tang. I will immediately send troops and horses to receive the chief of your tribe. No one objected to Lier's decision. After all, it would be a waste to reject a surrendered army that had delivered itself to their doorstep. Chimi Liangwu was overjoyed. Thank you, His Majesty the Emperor of the Great Tang. Lier nodded in satisfaction and said, all of you must be tired from the journey. Return to the post house to rest first. I will immediately send men to receive your tribal chief in a moment. Thank you, His Majesty the Emperor of the Great Tang. Chimi Liangwu will take his leave. Chimi Liangwu bowed and then left the hall. Lier narrowed his eyes and ordered, summon Shieli's envoy into the hall. Summon Shieli's envoy for an audience. Summon Shieli's envoy for an audience. The eunuchs passed on Lier's decree one by one. Not long after, a burly Turkic man walked into the hall with two Turkic men of medium stature. Before that burly Turkic man could announce his identity, Lier couldn't help but exclaim, it's you? Chapter 1377. Inside the Taiji Palace, seeing the burly man leading the Turkic envoys, not only did Lier look surprised, but many of the officials in the palace also lowered their heads in discussion. Your subject, Ashina Simo, greets your majesty. The burly man leading the Turkic envoys bowed to Lier. The two Turks behind him raised their fists and bowed to the burly man, but they didn't say anything. They probably didn't know how to speak the Han language. Your subject, Li Zishuan's heart skipped a beat. When Ashina Simo walked into the main hall, he noticed the abnormalities of the surrounding officials. Now that he heard Ashina Simo calling himself a subject to Lier, the doubt in his heart deepened. After all, Ashina Simo was an outsider. How could he call himself a subject to the Emperor of Great Tang? As he was on the side of the civil officials, he wasn't familiar with most of the people around him. He was familiar with Fang Xianling, Du Ruhui, and Zhangsun Wuji, but these three were already standing at the front talking to Lier. Thus, he could only suppress the doubts in his heart and quietly watch the situation develop. Simo, there's no need to be so polite. Quickly rise. Lier, who was sitting on the dragon throne, said amiably. His attitude was obviously different from when he met the Thule and Chiton envoys. "Thank you, Your Majesty." Ashina Simo straightened his body. Lier asked, "General Simo, is there a matter for you to meet me today?" "Your Majesty, a few days ago, the Great Khan discovered that the Chiton chieftain was bold and dared to lead his troops to defect from the Turks and defect to Great Tang. He specially ordered Ashina Simo to come to Chang and asked for the Chiton chieftain from Your Majesty." Ashina Simo bowed and replied. Lier narrowed his eyes, and his voice immediately became cold. He said indifferently, "The Chiton tribe has always been under Xieli's jurisdiction. I have never seen him before. How can I hand him over to you?" Ashina Simo said in a deep voice, "Your Majesty, the envoy at the palace gate just now is from the Chiton tribe. The Chiton chieftain and his tribe are definitely rushing to Chang'an. At that time, Your Majesty only needs to send someone to capture him and hand him over to me. The Great Khan will definitely reward you handsomely." Lier's face darkened, and he said in an unfriendly tone, "Impudent! Ashina Simo, are you ordering me?" "I wouldn't dare." Ashina Simo hurriedly bowed and said, "Your Majesty, this subject is only here to bring back the Chiton tribe. I have no intention of offending you. But Your Majesty, you seem to have the intention of protecting the Chiton tribe. This subject will remind Your Majesty that you must not forget the treaty from back then. The Turks and the Great Tang have a friendly treaty of non-aggression against each other. Now that the Chiton tribe has defected to the Great Tang, if Your Majesty can hand them over to this subject and bring them back, the friendship between the Great Tang and the Turks will definitely last for countless generations. The Great Khan will also remember Your Majesty's benevolence and generously reward Your Majesty." "How dare you?" As soon as Ashina Simo's voice fell, Cheng Yaojin could no longer remain calm. The old man jumped out from behind and pointed at Ashina Simo's nose as he scolded. "Bastard, how dare you criticize His Majesty? His Majesty treats you with courtesy today only because of the previous emperor's high regard for you and the past friendship. You actually don't know what's good for you, offending your superiors and threatening His Majesty? Humph! If you have the guts, then come out and have a good fight with me." "Old Cheng." Ashina Simo frowned and said, "Hi Duke Liu, Ashina Simo did not threaten His Majesty. I only want to complete the mission given by the Great Khan and promote the eternal friendship between the Turks and the Great Tang. If I have offended you, I hope Your Majesty and High Duke Liu can forgive me." Cheng Yaojin glared at Ox Eye and said angrily, "Humph! Don't use Khan Xieli to pressure this old man. Old Cheng, am not afraid of him. Enough! Jijia, go down. Quarreling in the imperial court, what a scandal." Lier, who was sitting high above, frowned and scolded. "Yes." Unwillingly, Cheng Yaojin immediately stopped and retreated. Lier looked at Ashina Simo and said in a deep voice, "We indeed have a non-aggression treaty with Xieli. The Chiton tribe is in the Turks, and we can't do anything about it. But now that they have surrendered to the Great Tang, they are our people. We will not hand our people over to other countries, much less to Xieli. So, Ashina Simo, you should go back." Ashina Simo still clasped his hands and said unwillingly, "Your Majesty, if you can hand over the Chiton tribe to me, the Great Khan is willing to use Liang Shidu in exchange. Your Majesty, please reconsider. How can a mere Chiton tribe be compared to the eternal friendship between the Turks and the Great Tang?" Liang Shidu. Everyone in the imperial court was first stunned. Then they burst into an uproar. Many of the officials and generals were tempted by the news. Li Zixuan was also tempted because he had heard of Liang Shidu before. Liang Shidu was originally a general in the Sui Dynasty's Yingyang prefecture. At the end of the Sui Dynasty, he was removed from his position and returned to his hometown. Later on, he took advantage of the chaos in the world to rebel and take control of the Shuafang. Later on, Liang Shidu officially declared himself emperor and submitted to the Turks. He was conferred the title of Magnanimous Vijay Khan and Son of Heaven. Later on, With the support of the Turks, Liang Shidu attacked the Great Tang several times, but he was defeated by the Great Tang army, and his power declined day by day. Especially after the Tang Dynasty destroyed the other separatist factions, Liang Shidu was in even more danger. Thus, Liang Shidu decided to rely on the Turks, relying on them to prolong his feeble existence. Because the Eastern Turks were very strong at the start of the Tang Dynasty, after the Tang Dynasty destroyed most of the separatist factions, they decided to rest and recover their strength. When they could defeat the Eastern Turks, they would deal with Liang Shidu. Thus, Liang Shidu was able to survive under the protection of the Eastern Turks for more than a decade, and he was the longest-lasting separatist faction at the end of the Sui dynasty. Today, in order to capture the Khitan tribe members who had betrayed him, Shili was actually willing to use Liang Shidu in exchange. Hearing this, Li Zixuan's eyes flashed as he thought of a plan. Lier, who was sitting on the seat of honor, was obviously shocked by Ashinasimo's words, but he quickly reacted and directly refused. It's not a big deal. Impossible. No matter what conditions Shili gives, I will not hand over the people who submitted to the Great Tang. The Great Tang is a country of nobles and will not do such despicable things. Thus, Ashinasimo, you should give up on this idea as soon as possible. Lier was not stupid. Although he also wanted to get rid of Liang Shidu, he would not use the Khitan tribe in exchange. Otherwise, who would dare to submit to the Great Tang in the future? Lier would definitely not do such a thing that damaged the prestige of the country. When the officials heard this, they all breathed a sigh of relief. Clearly, they all understood the current situation very well. Ashinasimo's eyes darkened, and after a moment, he unhappily clasped his hands and said, "Since that is the case, this official will take his leave. After returning, this official will report to the Great Khan. I hope that your Majesty will not regret today's decision." I have never regretted it. Men, send Ashinasimo out of the palace. Lier angrily snorted and said, if not for the fact that the two countries were at war and envoys were not killed, he would definitely have someone punish this rude fellow. Ashinasimo glanced at Lier and then led his followers out of the hall. The hall fell into silence once more. This was because the situation was getting more and more complicated. Lier had rejected Ashinasimo's request. After returning, Shili Khan would definitely be furious. Everyone could foresee that an all-out war between the Great Tang and the Turks would soon come. Your Majesty, Shili's request was rejected, and he will definitely be furious. This old official estimates that after he finishes dealing with Tuli Khan, he will definitely organize the army to take revenge for today. Thus, even if we do not take the initiative to send out troops, we still need to make preparations as soon as possible. Otherwise, it will be difficult to stop the Turks' wolf cavalry. Great Tang's war godly Jing stepped forward and bowed to Lier. This official agrees with the medicine master's words. Since your Majesty has rejected Shili today, we must make preparations early. Whether to attack or defend, your Majesty, please make an early decision. Su Maogong of the past and Li Ji of the present also stepped forward and bowed. This official agrees. Your Majesty, please make an early decision. Qin Xiong, Cheng Yaojin, Fang Xianling, Duru Hui, and the other officials also bowed. Lier nodded, and then he said, my beloved officials are extremely correct. Although the Great Tang and the Turks have an alliance, the Turks' ambitions are known to all. It is only a matter of time before they break the alliance. However, our Great Tang, as the Celestial Empire and a nation of gentlemen, cannot commit such a treacherous act. Thus, we have decided to postpone sending out troops. However, the generals of the various camps of the capital's 16 guards need to urge the soldiers to prepare for war and strengthen their training. The Ministry of Works, Ministry of Revenue, and Ministry of Works need to prepare weapons, armor, war horses, and provisions. Once the Turks violate the alliance, we will immediately send out troops to capture Shili alive. In the face of a national crisis, all officials must do their best. This official obeys your Majesty. The civil and military officials all bowed and accepted the order. Lier nodded and was about to say, "If there is something to report, please report. If there is nothing, the court is dismissed." Unexpectedly, Li Zixuan stepped forward. "Your Majesty, this official has a plan to deal with the Turks." Li Zixuan, dressed in a purple robe, stood proudly at the bottom of the hall, looking as if he had a card up his sleeve. He was truly elegant and had an outstanding temperament. Many officials praised him in their hearts. The main thing was that this fellow had a good appearance. "Oh, Marquis Yon, what plan do you have? Quickly tell me." Lier's eyes lit up as he asked expectantly. The reason he had called Li Zixuan to the morning court was mainly to let Li Zixuan participate in the affairs between the Great Tang and the Turks. After all, when they attacked the Turks in the future, he still wanted Li Zixuan to contribute his strength. He did not expect Li Zixuan to have his own opinion on the current situation between the Great Tang and the Turks. When Ashinasimo left the hall, Li Zixuan had already been brewing a plan in his heart. At this moment, he had a card up his sleeve. Hearing Lier's words, he clasped his hands and said, "Your Majesty, this official suggests that we immediately send troops to attack Liang Shidu to get rid of the last obstacle in the Great Tang." Hearing this, Lier was slightly disappointed and said, "Send troops to Liang Shidu? What does this have to do with the Turks?" Li Zixuan said in a deep voice, "Your Majesty, this time, the Turks sent an envoy to exchange Liang Shidu for the Khitan division. It is clear that the Turks are in a state of chaos and are unable to protect Liang Shidu. Why don't we take this opportunity to take him down?" Back then, Liang Shidu gathered troops to occupy the Liang Shidu and established a country on his own, causing the Liang Shidu land to become a natural barrier between the Great Tang and the Turks. This time, if we send troops to the Liang Shidu land, he will definitely ask for help from Xieli. Xieli cannot bear to lose this barrier and will definitely send troops to help. Once Xieli sends troops to help Liang Shidu and fight with the Great Tang army, he will have violated the alliance agreement from back then. This will undoubtedly give Your Majesty a reason to send troops to the Turks. Since he violated the alliance agreement first, why can't we take the initiative to attack the Turks? Therefore, the symbolic meaning of this battle is far greater than its practical meaning. It is not as simple as obtaining territory, because during this battle, once the Eastern Turks rescue Liang Shidu, it will directly give our Great Tang a reason to attack the Turks. If Xieli sees through our plan and does not rescue Liang Shidu, it is also fine. Being able to get rid of the separatist forces that have occupied the Liang Shidu land for many years will also be beneficial to maintaining the stability of our Great Tang's rear. Coincidentally, we can also train our troops in advance for sending troops to the Turks in the future. Therefore, once this plan is out, no matter how Xieli responds, we will be in an invincible position. In the hall, Li Zixuan spoke with fervor and assurance. A perfect plan to deal with Xieli Khan was narrated from his mouth. The more the civil and military officials listened, the brighter their eyes were. Lier was also pleasantly surprised and nodded repeatedly. When Li Zixuan finished speaking, Lier could not help but pat the table and exclaim, "Good, good, good plan. Dear officials, do you think that the Marquis of Yong's plan is feasible?" Cheng Yaojin immediately walked forward and said with a smile, "Hee, Your Majesty, this old official thinks that the Marquis of Yong's plan is very feasible. Liang Shidu, that old man, has occupied the Liang Shidu land for so many years. He should have scrammed out of our Great Tang long ago. If Your Majesty fights, I, Cheng Jijia, am willing to lead troops to take Liang Shidu's head." Speaking of which, as long as there was a battle, this old fellow would be excited. Previously, he did not even have enough fun fighting Guangqing County. Now that he was going to fight Liang Shidu, he was even more excited. Furthermore, he also felt that the plan proposed by Li Zixuan was very reliable. Qin Xiong also walked forward and clasped his fist. "Your Majesty, this old official thinks that the Marquis of Yong's plan is feasible. Even if we cannot force out the Turks' reinforcements, we can still reclaim the Liang Shida land and completely unify the Central Plains. Li Jing also spoke at this time. Your Majesty, the Marquis of Yong'an's plan is brilliant. To us, we can attack or retreat, but to Xieli, it is a dilemma. This official also thinks that this plan is feasible. This official concurs. Li Zishuan's plan would not allow the Great Tang to bear the infamy of treachery, and it would also allow the Great Tang to take the initiative in the confrontation with the Turks. It satisfied both the desire of the peace-loving faction and the demands of the war-loving faction. Which of the officials dared to disagree? Those who did not agree could only be spies who were in cahoots with the Turks. Thus, when Great Tang's military god expressed his opinion, it instantly had a decisive effect. The civil and military officials all expressed their agreement. Li Erlong was overjoyed and said, "Good. Since that is the case, then it is decided. Fang Xianling, Du Ruhui, Zhongsun Wuji, Xiao Yu, Yin Lide, Li Jing, Li Ji, Cheng Jijia, Qin Xiong, Yuqi Jingda, Niu Jinda, Duan Jishuan, stay behind to discuss the matter of sending troops with me. As for the rest of the officials, if you have something to report, if not, you are dismissed." Chapter 1378. After the morning court session ended, the officials left the Taiji Palace. Zhongsun Wuji, Fang Xianling, Du Ruhui, Li Jing, Li Zishuan, and the other core officials came to the Ganlu Palace to discuss with Li Er about attacking Liang Shidu. After all, this involved the specific battle plan. If it was directly announced to the public in the court, what if someone accidentally leaked it out? Thus, to be safe, Li Er would only gather his trusted officials for these meetings that involve specific military plans. This way, he could ensure that the plan would not be leaked out and also increase the efficiency of the meeting. Since we have decided to attack Liang Shidu, how do you think we should do it? Within the Ganlu Palace, Li Er looked at the trusted officials in the hall and asked aloud. Zhongsun Wuji stepped forward and said, "Your Majesty, during the Wuda era, Liang Shida had invaded our Tang Dynasty many times and was defeated by our army. Many of his subordinates have already surrendered to our Tang Dynasty. Furthermore, the 18 rebellious kings have all been wiped out. Today, Liang Shidu is unable to join forces with the rebellious kings and is weak. Internally, the Turks have political problems, and it is hard for him to withdraw. Thus, I feel that Liang Shidu is no longer a threat. Why don't we send someone to ask him to surrender?" Xiao Chuan nodded and echoed, "What Duke Xiao said is right. Now that Master Liang's fate is exhausted, he can't make any waves. If we can take him down without losing a single soldier, it would be for the best." Li Er nodded, but did not say anything. Li Ji spoke. "Your Majesty, I feel that this plan is not appropriate. In the court session, according to Marquis Yong'an's plan, the best result would be to force Liang Shidu to ask for help from Xieli and lure him to break the alliance. If we do as Duke Zhao said and send a messenger to persuade Liang Shidu to surrender, what if that person really surrenders? Wouldn't Xieli not be able to react in time?" Du Ruhui clasped his hands and said, "General Li is right, but that's only one of the reasons. More importantly, Liang Shidu is a vicious person. Ever since the Sui Dynasty, he has been seizing power from the Yu County. He's been at odds with our Great Tang for more than a decade now. If he really wanted to surrender, he wouldn't have waited until now. Therefore, sending an emissary to persuade them to surrender is really a waste of time and effort." Li Zishuan nodded. Suddenly, he noticed Li Zishuan, who was lowering his head to count ants. His heart stirred as he asked, "Marquis of Yong, and you were the one who came up with this plan. Do you have any brilliant ideas about attacking Liang Shidu?" Li Zishuan could not help but curse in his heart. He thought to himself, "Why are you calling me when the two big shots are arguing so fiercely? What do you want me to say?" Agreeing with one side would definitely cause the other side to be unhappy. However, since Li Zishuan called him out, Li Zishuan had no choice but to put on a straight face. Replying, "Your Majesty, this subject has no wise opinion, only a foolish one. In this subject's opinion, the opinions of Duke Zhao, General Li, and Master Du do not conflict with each other. We can bring our army to persuade them to surrender. For example, before the army besieges the city, we can send an emissary into the city to persuade Liang Shidu to surrender to Great Tang. Of course, Master Du also said that with Liang Shidu's character, he would definitely not surrender. At that time, when the emissary comes out, the army will surround the city and force Liang Shidu to seek help. This is called using peaceful means before resorting to force. This way, they would not offend either side. Li Zishuan added in his heart, in the royal court, only those who did not offend others would be able to live longer. After being an official for so long, Li Zishuan felt that his emotional intelligence seemed to have increased. Good. What a good. Using peaceful means before resorting to force. However, in this old man's opinion, why don't we call this killing the heart? Zhang Sun Wuji chuckled. This is good. To deal with that old scoundrel Liang Shidu, we should kill the heart. Cheng Yaojin agreed with a smile. Li Zishuan nodded and finally said, Good. We will do as Marquis of Yong'an says. Order Chai Xiao and Shui Wanjun to lead 50,000 right guards and 30,000 Xia province soldiers to besiege Liang Shidu. We must take down the city. I will send 2 Taichung temple officials to follow the army. Before the army besieges the city, we will let them enter the city to ask for their surrender. After they return without any success, we will attack. Chai Xiao and Shui Wanjun stepped forward and clasped their fists. We accept the decree. These 2 people were fierce men. At the beginning of the Tang Dynasty, Chai Xiao fought many battles with the Eastern Turks and Tuyuan, and he fought them beautifully. In the first year of Jingguan, Chai Xiao, who had many achievements in battle, was promoted to the position of right guard general. Furthermore, this fellow had married Li Yuan's daughter, Princess Pingyang, and could be considered as Li Zishuan's brother-in-law. Now that old Li had promoted Chai Xiao as a general, it was very likely that he wanted to give his brother-in-law some military merits. After all, the battle to destroy Liang Shidu was one of the easier battles. Shui Wanjun was Shui Wan's older brother. Back then, the 2 brothers were very important under Luo Yi and gave Do Jinda a lot of problems. Later, they were shaved bald by Lu Heikua, but that could only be blamed on Shui Wanjun's incompetence. Seeing that Lier only sent Chai Xiao and Shui Wanjun, Cheng Yaojin and Yuqi Jingda instantly became anxious. Old Cheng immediately stepped forward and said, Your Majesty, this old subject also requests to fight. Yuqi Jingda was unwilling to fall behind and also clasped his fists. Your Majesty, this old subject also requests to fight. Last time, this old subject missed the Battle of Guan City. This time, this battle is against Liang Shidu. This old subject can't miss it no matter what. Lier thought about it and finally nodded. That's good. Send Jingda as the chief supervisor to destroy Liang Shidu, Chai Xiao as the general of the left, and Shui Wanjun as the general of the right. Within 3 days, organize the troops and horses and head to the north. Yuqi Jingda was overjoyed and quickly clasped his fists. This old subject thanks your majesty. Chai Xiao and Shui Wanjun inexplicably gained a superior, but Yuqi Jingda's qualifications were there, so they couldn't say much. They could only bow and say, This subject obeys the decree. But this way, Cheng Yaojin was completely displeased. Old Cheng said unwillingly, Your Majesty, there's still this old subject. Lier said unhappily, Liang Shidu's fate is already exhausted. Jingda, Chai Xiao, and Shui Wanjun are enough. Why use a butcher's knife to kill chicken? Could it be that you want Zhen to send all of the Great Tang's generals over? Withdraw. To be honest, the currently heir really didn't put Liang Shidu in his eyes. According to his initial thoughts, he only wanted to send Chai Xiao and Shui Wanjun, these 2 generals. Adding Yuqi Jingda behind them was already the limit. If Cheng Yaojin was also added, then Old Li could only say to Liang Shidu, You're not worthy. Cheng Yao Jin was deflated and didn't dare to resist, silently withdrawing. Li Er continued, the Ministry of Revenue needs to quickly mobilize the army's provisions. The Ministry of Works needs to prepare the army's weapons and armor. Beloved official Xiao, beloved official Yin, I'll have to trouble you these 2 days. Xiao Yu and Yin lied hurriedly bowed and said, Your Majesty is too kind. This is our duty. Li Er nodded and said, Since that's the case, then all of you can go back and prepare immediately. Everyone bowed and said, This subject will take his leave. Marquis Owen, you stay behind. Old Li suddenly added, causing Li Zishuan, who had already taken a step forward, to helplessly withdraw his foot. Yes, Your Majesty. Cheng Yao Jin patted Li Zishuan's shoulder, then cast a sympathetic look over and left in front of Li Zishuan. You brat, do you know why Zhen asked you to stay behind alone? After all the important officials left, Li Er stood up and walked to the bottom of the hall, looking at Li Zishuan and asking with a smile. Li Zishuan pondered for a moment, then cupped his hands and said, Could it be that Your Majesty wants to let this subject send a student to bring a telegraph machine, a celestial lamp, and a telescope to follow the army like last time when they attacked Guan City? Li Er shook his head and said, Of course not. Liang Shidu is just a grasshopper after autumn. Why would we need to use a divine artifact to destroy him? Besides, I don't want to let the Turks know about the telegraph machine, the celestial lamp, and the telescope so early. It's not bad to give Xieli a surprise when the final battle comes in the future. Li Zishuan instantly understood. It turned out that Old Li was looking down on Liang Shidu, and he even wanted to give Xieli a killing move. Then why did Your Majesty ask this subject to stay behind? Li Zishuan really couldn't guess, so he asked. Li Er stared into his eyes and said, Let me ask you, how much iron can your iron smelting factory make in a day? And that steel smelting factory, how much steel can it make in a day? Li Zishuan's heart moved, hesitated for a moment, then answered, Your Majesty, if this subject's iron smelting factory goes all out, it can make about 2,000 jin of iron a day. As for the steel smelting factory, it can also make about 2,000 jin of steel a day. Speaking of which, his daily production of 2,000 jin was actually not high. It was only a few hundred tons a year. One must know that according to the original history, in the middle of the Tang Dynasty, the annual production of steel could reach 5,000 tons. The Song Dynasty was even more ruthless. The annual production of steel could reach 70,000 tons. Therefore, his annual production of a few hundred tons was not high. The main reason was that the scale of the iron smelting factory and steel smelting factory was a little small. But then again, his iron smelting factory and steel smelting factory could already be considered the highest production in the Tang Dynasty. 2,000 jin a day. Li Er's expression changed slightly, and he let out 2 light breaths. He said to Li Zishuan, You must have seen the situation in the imperial court today. The war between the Tang Dynasty and the Turks is not far away. Although the Turks have made a decision now, their strength is still not to be underestimated. It is said that Xieli has more than 1 million soldiers under his command, and all the Turks are soldiers. Moreover, they live in the grasslands all year round, and most of them are brave and good at fighting. Therefore, this war with the Turks will definitely not be easy to fight. As the saying goes, if a worker wants to do a good job, he must first sharpen his tools. Before the war, I intend to transfer the elite soldiers of the 100 Cavalry to expand the Black Armored Army, and also upgrade the armor and equipment for the Black Armored Army. The steel used for this will be provided by your workshop. How about it? Hearing this, Li Zishuan bowed without any hesitation and said, This subject is duty-bound. Seeing Li Zishuan agree so readily, Li Er was surprised and said, You have always been a person who does not move without benefits. Today, I have not promised you any benefits, so why did you agree so readily? Li Zishuan said seriously, Your Majesty must be joking. The country is facing a great enemy, not to mention offering some steel. As long as the enemy can be annihilated, even if you want this subject to give up all my assets, this subject is willing. Although this subject is usually stubborn and mischievous. In the face of such major issues, I can still distinguish between right and wrong. Li Zixuan was not stupid. He knew better than anyone else that only when the country was stable could he live a carefree life in the Tang Dynasty. Li Er's eyes were filled with admiration. He smiled and said, Good lad. I did not misjudge you. You will probably be able to mine the vanadium mine in the Shu land soon. When the time comes, I hope that you can refine a batch of the vanadium steel that you mentioned earlier to make armor and sword for the Black Armored Army. I want to make the Black Armored Army, the sharp sword of the Tang Dynasty, even sharper and pierce Shelley's heart. Chapter 1379. 2-in-1 chapter. Oh, that's right. Yesterday, I heard from Chengxian that you have a new method of growing white stack flowers. It can save on seeds and also increase the harvest. Is this true? In the Ganlu Palace, after giving orders on the war, Li Er talked to Li Zixuan about farming. Recently, Lantian County had been bustling with activity to grow white stack flowers. Hearing this, Li Zixuan clasped his hands and said, Your Majesty, this method was something that my master spent a great deal of effort researching. It is indeed exceptional, but as for how good it is and how good it is, it still needs to be tested. If Your Majesty wants to promote growing white stack flowers throughout the Great Tang, why don't you wait until next year or the year after? At that time, you might not even need to buy white stack flower seeds from the small Nanyang countries. You could just find me. Having his plan exposed, Li Er was slightly embarrassed. Immediately, his expression returned to normal. He smiled and said, Oh, this means that you are quite confident in your method? That's good. My imperial plantation can also open up some wasteland. In a moment, I will have Chengxian send people to Guangdong to buy some white stack flower seeds. When the time comes, I will copy your method and plant white stack flowers in the imperial plantation. Since Li Zixuan was so confident, Li Er decided to believe in Li Zixuan and make a risky investment. When the time came, the white stack flowers he received could be used to make winter clothes for the imperial concubines and princes and princesses. Speaking of which, it was quite sad. Although he was the emperor, when he had just ascended the throne, the national treasury had been emptied. He and Emperor Zhongsun were used to living frugally. Many of the people with large wealth wore winter clothes made of white stack flowers, but none of his imperial concubines and princesses had ever worn them. He knew Li Zixuan's character very well. Anything that could make Li Zixuan so confident was basically a sure thing. Therefore, he planned to take advantage of Li Zixuan's east wind to make a small fortune. When Li Zixuan heard Li Er's words, he couldn't help but feel sad for Emperor Zhongsun, Li Chengxian, and Chang'el, who said the royal family was happy. Looking at all of them being detained by old Li to the point that they couldn't even afford to wear cotton-padded jackets, they were truly a disgrace to the great Tang Empire. If Your Majesty has such intentions, then I will immediately write a letter and have my men bring back more seeds. When the time comes, I will directly distribute them to Your Highness. Li Zixuan cupped his hands and said. Li Er nodded and said, And that's for the best. However, the following conversation between the two of them was a little unbearable to the ears. But Your Majesty, why don't you give me the money needed to buy the white fold flower seeds first? Scram. Bastard. Do you think I will go back on my word? After scramming out of the sweet dew hall, Li Zixuan was silently criticizing old Li for being unkind and wanting to cheat him of the seed money when he bumped into three people. Hey, Xiaoxian, why did you stay in the palace for so long? If you still didn't come out, I, old Cheng, would have gone in to get you. Cheng Yaojin slapped Li Zixuan's shoulder and said in a muffled voice. Li Zixuan said in surprise, Why haven't you all left yet? I thought you all had gone back. The people waiting for Li Zixuan at the palace gate were Cheng Yaojin, Qin Xiong, and Niu Jinda, the three old generals closest to him. Hey, the three of us have nothing to do when we go back, unlike Yuchi Laohei, who has to go to the military camp to deploy troops. Let's go. Let's talk as we walk, Cheng Yaojin said sourly. Then he smiled and said, Speaking of which, Xiaoxian, recently, There's been an uproar in Lantian County about receiving free white foldflower seeds. We old fellows have all heard about it. We also heard that you taught the farmers a new way to plant the white foldflower. You can't hide it from us. Lisa Schwan asked in confusion. Why? Uncle Chung, Uncle Chin, Uncle Nyo, are you also planning to plant the white foldflower in your fief? Qin Xiong smiled and nodded. We heard that Xiao Xian has a way to increase the survival rate and production of the white foldflower. We old fellows also want to join in. Actually, it was mainly because the greenhouse vegetables last time had let them taste the sweetness. This time, knowing that Li Zixuan wanted to plant the white foldflower on a large scale in his fief, Qin Xiong, Cheng Yaojin, and Niu Jinda also wanted to let their farmers follow in Li Zixuan's footsteps and make a small fortune. Speaking of which, they were all born in war. Usually, they did not have as many good ideas as Li Zixuan to make the farmers' lives better. Therefore, they could only follow whatever Li Zixuan did. Basically, it was as if Li Zixuan was indirectly helping them take care of the farms. Li Zixuan smiled and said, "Since the three uncles have this idea, then when I go back, I will send people to teach the new way to plant the white foldflower to the three uncles' farmers. At the same time, I will also send some new farming tools over. Moreover, to tell you the truth, His Majesty also mentioned this matter to me just now." In the end, His Majesty decided to plant the white foldflower in the imperial plantation. When everyone heard that even Li Zixuan wanted to use Li Zixuan's method to plant the white foldflower in the imperial plantation, they could not help but be filled with confidence in Li Zixuan's method. Niu Jinda smiled and said, "Then this time, we will have to bask in your glory again." Li Zixuan hurriedly waved his hand and said, "Uncle Niu, please don't say that. All of you have taken good care of this nephew on a daily basis. What does this small matter count as? Oh, right, since the uncles also plan to plant the white foldflower, then I will get people to buy more seed from Guangdong." "Hey, Xiao Xian, no need, no need. The number of farmers in our families can't compare to yours, and we don't need much seeds. I have already asked the Hum merchants in Shi City to think of a way to get them. Xiao Xian, you don't have to worry," Cheng Yaojin hurriedly said. A hint of awkwardness appeared on Qin Xiong and Niu Jinda's faces. Then, they took 2 steps to the side at the same time, creating some distance between them and Cheng Yaojin. Li Zixuan asked doubtfully, "Uncle Cheng, I have already sent people to buy all the seeds from the Hum merchants in Shi City. Where else can you go to buy more?" Cheng Yaojin chuckled and said, "Hee hee, those Hum merchants naturally have their own methods. I have already told them that if they do not hand over 1,800 gene of seeds within half a month, I will go and smash their shops. They can go to the Abbasid Caliphate to transport more seeds, or they can send ships to Guangdong to buy from the Nanyang merchants. In any case, I, Cheng Yaojin, only need to pay for the seeds. Furthermore, the Hum merchants in Shi City have all agreed. How about it, Xiao Xian? Isn't my method better than yours?" "Good. Cough, cough. Uncle Cheng's method is indeed good." Li Zixuan was instantly speechless. He could not help but observe 2 seconds of silence for those Hum merchants in Shi City. They were truly unlucky to have met this old hoodlum, Cheng Yaojin. Abbasid Caliphate and Great Tang were separated by 1,000 li. If those Hum merchants did not want their shops to be smashed by Cheng Yaojin, they would most likely have to travel through the sea to find their enemies in the business world, the Nanyang merchants, to buy seeds. Truly lamentable. After leaving the palace and passing through the Vermilion Bird Avenue, Qin Xiong and Niu Jinda, because they were taking different paths, returned home. Cheng Yaojin, on the other hand, was still able to follow Li Zixuan for a while longer. At this moment, Li Zixuan recalled the doubts he had in the royal court today. Thus, he asked, "Uncle Cheng, what is the background of that envoy Shili sent, Ashina Simo? It seems like many officials in the royal court are familiar with him, and he even addressed himself as a subject to His Majesty. What is going on?" Cheng Yaojin was stunned. After pausing for a moment, he sighed and said, "Ashina Simo, this person is actually also a man. He was originally an Eastern Turkic noble, the son of Ashina Tuliush. In the 19th year of founding Emperor, Chimin Kaghan of the Turks fled to the Sui dynasty. The tribes of Mabe supported Ashinasimo as the Eastern Turkic Kaghan. After the internal affairs of the Turks stabilized, Chimin Kaghan returned to the Eastern Turkic Kaghan, and Ashinasimo took the initiative to give up the position of Kaghan. However, as Ashinasimo looked more like a Hu and not a Turk, Chuluo Kaghan suspected that he was not from the Ashina race. Simo had been through the 2 generations of Chuluo Kaghan and Shili Kaghan, and he was often a Jianbi. However, in the end, he was unable to manage the military and set up a Jianbi. In the first year of Wuda, Ashinasimo had been an envoy to Great Tang many times. Currently, many old officials in the royal court were familiar with him. In the 8th month of the 7th year of Wuda, Shili Kaghan and Tuli Kaghan led their troops to invade Tang. The current emperor led his troops to defend against the Turks and explained the pros and cons to them. Thus, Shili Kaghan sent Simo and Tuli Kaghan to meet the emperor and ask for peace. The emperor agreed to their request. In the 8th month of the same year, Ashinasimo came to Chang and to meet the emperor of that time, who is the current emperor emeritus. The emperor emeritus summoned him to the front of the imperial bed and praised his sincerity and gave him the title of Hashuan Commandery Prince. Thus, in today's morning court session, Ashinasimo called himself an official, which is reasonable. After hearing this, Li Zishuan nodded his head in realization. He then sighed and said, "I didn't expect Ashinasimo to have such a deep relationship with Great Tang. Furthermore, from what Uncle Chung said, he can be considered a righteous man." What Li Zishuan did not know was that according to the original development of history, in the 4th year of Jingguan, after the Tang army destroyed the Eastern Turks, Ashinasimo and Shili Kaghan were both captured by the Tang army. Later on, Li Er recognized Simo's loyalty and appointed him as the right Marquis General and Governor of Huazhou. Thus, Ashinasimo became one of the few Turks in the history of Great Tang. After bidding farewell to Cheng Yaojin, Li Zishuan brought Pang Feiji and rushed toward Mount Yin. Along the way, Li Zishuan could not help but sigh in his heart as he looked at the commoners who were struggling to make a living, the merchants who were hawking their wares, and the children who were playing around in the streets. The war between Great Tang and the Turks was about to arrive. The current peace would probably be gone soon, right? The Turkic Khaganate had over 1 million soldiers. The information he had obtained from Li Er had given Li Zishuan a huge amount of pressure. Millions of soldiers might not be much to modern people, but in the ancient times where there were few people, they were basically an invincible existence. One had to know that the total population of the Great Tang was only about 20 million, not to mention that the Turks lived on the grasslands and on horseback all year round. The physical strength of their soldiers was more or less better than that of the Great Tang. This war was really going to be a fierce one. Although in the original history, the Great Tang had completely defeated the Turks, there were no absolutes in the world. Facing such a strong Turk, if there was a slight mistake, the Great Tang had the possibility of being overturned. Furthermore, the current Great Tang had already deviated from the original historical path in many areas. Who could guarantee that they would be able to win again? Once the Great Tang was defeated, everything he had in this world would be destroyed. Li Zishuan would definitely not allow this to happen. Marquis. Li Zishuan, who was meditating, suddenly heard Pang Feiji shout. He could not help but frown and ask, "What's the matter?" Pang Feiji asked carefully. "Marquis, is there going to be a war again?" Li Zishuan did not want to hide it from him, so he nodded and said, How did you know?" Pang Feiji replied, "In the morning, I saw 3 groups of foreign envoys in front of the palace gate. They all seemed to be Turks, so I guess that something must have happened at the borders of the Great Tang." Li Zishuan let out a faint sigh and said, "You guessed right. Our peaceful days are almost coming to an end right away. Let's go back to Yinshan." "Hiya." "Yes, Marquis." Pang Feiji looked worriedly at Li Zishuan's back, then hurriedly urged his horse to chase after him. As he ran, he asked, "Marquis, did His Majesty send you to lead the army to war this time?" Not this time, but it might not be the next time. If Marquis goes to war, I will definitely follow by Marquis's side. The imperial court wanted to send troops to attack Liang Shidu, and the right guard camp in Chang and city was constantly being mobilized. The officials of the 6 ministries were also extremely busy, and the various government offices were still brightly lit even in the middle of the night. The war had just ended not long ago, and the people of Chang and city once again smelled the scent of war. Thinking back to the day when the Turk envoys appeared in Chang and city, the people could not help but talk about it. Was the crisis of the Turks 2 years ago about to happen again? Were the Turks going to break the treaty and attack the great Tang again? In an instant, many people in the city were in a state of panic. However, this situation did not last long. The day before the army set off, the imperial court suddenly posted notices in the city, announcing that Liang Shidu had occupied the northern side for many years and did not practice benevolence, causing the people to suffer. The emperor could not bear to see the people suffer and decided to summon Liang Shidu to surrender. If Liang Shidu was not willing to surrender, the Great Tang would attack the northern side. After knowing that the imperial court was not going to war with the Turks, the people of Chang and city heaved a sigh of relief. Then, they began to sing praises for Li Er's compassion for the people. From this, it could be seen that the Turks were not only a huge mountain in Li Er's heart, but also an insurmountable mountain in the hearts of the people of the Great Tang. Chapter 1380. Husband, the army of the imperial court is about to set out on an expedition today. Are you not going to send them off outside Chang'an? The next morning, Han Yushi asked Li Zixuan, who had just finished practicing his swordsmanship. After returning from the morning court, Li Zixuan had told her that the imperial court was planning to move against Liang Shidu. Thus, Han Yushi had learned of this news much earlier than the people of Chang'an. A trifling Liang Shidu is nothing more than a clown. He won't be able to cause any waves. This expedition has nothing to do with your husband, so your husband won't be joining in on the fun. Li Zixuan wiped his sweat as he indifferently said. Then, will husband participate in the next expedition? Han Yushi dazedly glanced at Li Zixuan and asked this question for no reason. Although Li Zixuan had not said much to her, her woman's sixth sense told her that the next expedition would involve Li Zixuan. Hearing this, Li Zixuan's hand movements suddenly paused. After a moment, he met Han Yushi's eyes and said with extreme seriousness, "If I were alone in this life, then even if the Great Tang was no match for the Turks, I would just go overseas. But in this life, I have my parents, my little sister, and you, my wife. Thus, I have a responsibility to protect all of you and the Great Tang. When the time comes, if His Majesty summons me, your husband will go and fight, and I will definitely win. My wife, you don't need to worry." Han Yushi frowned, and her beautiful eyes were about to tear up. She said softly with some stubbornness, "My husband has great ambitions and cares about the world. I will naturally not stop you. On the battlefield, swords have no eyes, but what I can do is that if my husband lives, I will accompany you for life. If my husband dies, I will be a widow for life." As their eyes met, the entire courtyard, the entire world, seemed to come to a standstill. He only had eyes for her, and she only had eyes for him. "Ha! Silly girl, what are you talking about? How could your husband die on the battlefield? Wife, your husband promises you that I will accompany you until you grow old, and I will definitely live one more day than you. I won't let you be sad and become a widow." Li Zixuan gently caressed Han Yushi's cheeks and smiled. Husband, you must keep your word." Han Yushi looked at Li Zixuan with sparkling eyes and said, "Of course." Chang'an City. At 7 in the morning, Yuqi Jingde, Chai Xiao, and Shui Wanjun brought 50,000 right Wu soldiers and Li Er's imperial edict out of the south gate of Chang'an. The army was majestic, and their footsteps were orderly. The citizens who had woken up early lined the streets to send them off, praying in their hearts that the army would return victorious this time. 2 days ago, Li Er's reply to Tuli Khan's son, Ashina Helagu, was that the imperial court would send troops to the north, using Liang Shidu to pin down Xieli's army, thus reducing the pressure that Tuli Khan was facing. Ashina Heligo believed it. Naturally, he was moved to tears by Lier. On the other side, the imperial court's army received the Khitan troops in Bingzhou yesterday. In a few days, the Khitan chief would arrive in Chang to meet Lier. Since then, the wishes of 2 out of the 3 emissaries had been fulfilled. The remaining emissary, Ashina Simo, was already on his way back to the Turks. In the morning, Li Zishuan made a trip to the academy. Today was Saturday, and all the teachers in the academy had to take part in the confidential exam. As the person who set the questions and made the Yin Huang College confidential regulations, he naturally did not need to take part in the exam. He was here in the morning to invigilate the exam. As for the students of the academy, they had already finished the first confidential exam yesterday afternoon. There was a total of 1 hour of exam time, so Li Zishuan quickly carried a stack of exam papers and walked out of the academy. For the sake of fairness, the exam papers of the teachers of the academy had to be personally marked by him, the Amacho. Not long after he returned to the study, Pang Feiji came in and reported, "Marquis, the young master of the Zheng family wishes to meet you. He even brought a carriage of gifts." After saying that, he looked a little uneasy. Last time, the elder brother on a mountain back gave Li Zishuan a gift in a carriage. In the end, what was in the carriage was not a gift, but a living person. "Oh, Zheng, Qianjun, let him in." Li Zishuan raised his eyebrows. He guessed that there must be new developments in the tea plantation and fairy tea in Jiangnan, so he nodded to Pang Feiji. "Yes, Marquis." Pang Feiji took the order and left. After a while, Zheng Qianjun was brought to the main hall. Li Zishuan also came out of the study. Zheng Qianjun hurriedly bowed and said, "Qianjun greets Marquis." No need to be so polite." Li Zishuan nodded and said, "Qianjun, why are you looking for me today?" Zheng Qianjun saluted and said, "Marquis, my father used your method to stir-fry the first batch of fairy tea in Jiangnan and ordered the servants to transport it here by water. There is a total of 50 kilograms. They are all in the carriage outside. Marquis, please take a look." 50 kilograms? Li Zishuan was slightly shocked. He thought to himself that Zheng Yinhong had gotten so many dried tea leaves in such a short time. In Jiangnan, only the Zheng family had this ability. It seemed that he had found the right partner. "Feiji, go and get a box. I want to see the color." After thinking for a while, Li Zishuan ordered. He not only wanted speed, but also quality. "Yes, Marquis." Pang Feiji cupped his fists and left. After a while, he returned with a box of tea leaves. The tea box was made of high-quality white porcelain. It was snow-white and had a very good texture. Li Zishuan opened the tea box and saw that it was filled with flat, smooth, sharp, tender, and heavy tea leaves. Li Zishuan couldn't help but nod his head and say, Not bad, not bad. These tea stir-fryers are very skilled. It seems that Heights Lord Zheng has put in a lot of effort." Zheng Qianjun said with a smile. "Thank you for your praise, Marquis. If my father knew that these tea leaves could be appreciated by Marquis, he would be very happy." Li Zishuan said with a smile, "I have seen and remembered Heights Lord Zheng's efforts. As for these tea leaves, leave half for me. As for the rest, you can divide it according to the proportion of your shares in the tea garden. The next time the tea garden produces tea leaves, the Zheng family will keep your share and send the rest to Chang'an." He held 60% of the shares in the tea garden. Logically speaking, he should be able to get 60 jin of the 100 jin of tea leaves. However, he did not want to be so ruthless. Moreover, he did not lack the money for the 10 jin of tea leaves. So, he decided to give it to Zheng Qianjun as a favor. When Zheng Yinhong left Chang, and he had told Zheng Qianjun about the immortal tea garden in detail, he was very clear about the twists and turns. Hearing this, he was very grateful and said, "Thank you, Marquis." Li Zishuan waved his hand. A large part of the 50 jin of tea leaves he wanted was to be sent to the palace. Recently, the palace had been in a shortage of tea leaves. When the concubines in the harem heard that drinking immortal tea could slow down their aging, They all wanted to sleep with the teapot every day. They tried to find ways to ask Lier for some immortal tea. Lier was very annoyed. If he did not send some tea leaves, Oldley would probably come personally to snatch them. Therefore, there was no shortage of tea leaves in the palace. Li Zishuan planned to send 15 kilograms of tea leaves to the palace first. As for the remaining 20 kilograms, he would keep some for himself, give some to the academy, and give some to the old generals in Chang and who had a good relationship with him. If there was any left, he would directly give it to shopkeeper Liu of the Drunken Immortal restaurant, so that the lucky customers in Chang and could also enjoy the taste of immortal tea. All right, Marquis. Because of the urgency of the time, the tea garden could only send this much tea leaves. There will be more and more in the future. So I was thinking that during the football league in Chang and the gathering of businessmen from all states and counties, we can promote our immortal tea. First, we can make a name for ourselves. Then, we won't have to worry about the sales in the future. Zheng Qianjun hesitated for a moment and then cupped his hands to Li Zishuan. Li Zishuan narrowed his eyes and asked, "How do you plan to promote the immortal tea?" Recently, he was more concerned about the situation in the north and the people's livelihood and farming in Lantian County. As for business, he did not want to be too distracted. When Zheng Qianjun heard Li Zishuan's question, he immediately became spirited and said, "Marquis, this is what I think. The Wind Thunder team of the Zheng family has not been defeated since the start of the competition in March. Only a few days ago, they tied with the ferocious Tiger team of the King of Jiangxia. Now, they're in the limelight. I plan to customize a batch of clothes for the Wind Thunder team with the words Immortal Tea embroidered on them. It can more or less create some momentum for the immortal tea. Marquis, what do you think?" Li Zishuan thought to himself, "Isn't this similar to the sponsors of modern football teams? It's really not easy for Zheng Qianjun to think of this." "Well, very good. I didn't expect you to be so business-minded." Li Zishuan nodded and praised him. Then, he said, "Using the team to promote the immortal tea is indeed a feasible way. In this way, if the Wind Thunder team can become a League One team, all the shareholders of the Immortal Tea Garden can take out 3,000 strings of money every year to keep the words Immortal Tea on the team uniform of the Wind Thunder team. If the Wind Thunder team can break into the top 3 of the League One, the Immortal Tea Garden can give 5,000 strings of money every year. If the Wind Thunder team can win the championship of the League One, the Immortal Tea Garden can give 8,000 strings of money every year. In short, the better the team's performance, the more money they can get in the end." Zheng Qianjuan's eyes lit up, and he said excitedly, "It can be done like this? If what Marquis said is true, then the Wind Thunder team can be regarded as valuable. When I first saw the news in the newspaper that Marquis was going to hold a league tournament, I immediately had the idea of forming a team. At that time, my father thought that I was not doing my job properly. Now, if Marquis is really willing to let the Yanhuang Tea Garden fund the team with money, then my father will never say that I formed a team for fun." Li Zishuan saw that this child had a good temperament, so he wanted to give him some advice. So, he nodded and said, "The existence of a team requires the local merchants to fund it. The team can make a name for the merchants, and the merchants can provide the team with money. Everyone takes what they need. This is the normal way for a team to operate for a long time. Correspondingly, if the team wants to get more funding, it must have good results. If you want to have good results, you must spend a lot of money to train or poach some players with good skills. In this way, people will be willing to pay more money to fund you. Now, I'm using the Immortal Tea Garden to fund the Wind Thunder team to set an example for all the teams and merchants. I want to tell them that a team with good results should get more benefits while gaining glory. You are worth the price. Not only the Wind Thunder team, but also the ferocious Tigers of the King of Jiangxia or other teams eventually win the championship. I will let the Tea Garden fund them with 8,000 strings of cash in exchange for their future. In the next year, I will promote the Immortal Tea. This is a relationship between the merchants and the team. Qianjun, do you understand?" Zheng Qianjun suddenly understood and said, "I understand. I understand. Thank you, Marquis, for your advice. After listening to Marquis's words today, I understand that there is so much knowledge in it. Marquis, don't worry. In the future, I will make the Wind Thunder team one of the best teams in the Tang Empire and promote the immortal tea. Haha, good ambition. I wish you success in advance. Today, the diners who spend 10 strings of cash in the restaurant will have the opportunity to taste a cup of immortal tea for free. First come, first served, limited to 20 servings. The next day, the same notice board appeared in the lobby of the Drunken Immortal restaurant in Chong, in City and Lantian County, which aroused a lot of discussion among the diners. Immortal tea? What kind of tea is that? Could it be a new tea product launched by the Drunken Immortal restaurant? It should be. Before, there was the Immortal Drunken Immortal, and now there is the Immortal tea. I wonder if this immortal tea can be as amazing as the Immortal Drunken Immortal. Alas, I hate drinking tea the most in my life. It seems that this immortal tea is not meant to be with me. Even if you are, you can't afford to drink it. You have to spend 10 strings of cash in order to drink a cup of it. Who can afford so much money in one meal? Yes, yes. Hey, shopkeeper, give me a liter of the Immortal Drunken Immortal, a pot of tenderness, a plate of gnawed chicken, a serving of meatballs, and a serving of braised pork. Let's eat here. It should be 10 strings of cash, right? When the crowd was looking around, a middle-aged man in luxurious clothes came in and said loudly. All the diners looked sideways. When they saw the man's face, many of them exclaimed, Isn't that Boss Chow? Why is he eating at the Drunken Immortal restaurant today? Ah, I remember now. This immortal tea is the latest tea from the Yen Huang Chamber of Commerce, and it is a tribute tea from the palace. It is extremely rare outside. I didn't expect to see it in the Drunken Immortal restaurant. Tribute tea? This immortal tea is a tribute tea? Brother Dongfang, are you serious? Of course it's true. Look, this Boss Chow obviously came to the Drunken Immortal restaurant to taste the immortal tea. Alas, I won't talk to you anymore, waiter. Quick, give me 2 liters of the Immortal Drunken Immortal to take away. Remember to give me a cup of immortal tea. Hey. Shopkeeper, give me 2 liters of the Immortal Drunken Immortal too. Once the name of the tribute tea spread, many wealthy merchants began to fight for the 20 slots for the immortal tea. Chapter 1381. All right, Master Chow, the immortal tea you wanted is here. Inside the Drunken Immortal Inn, the waiter brought out a cup of clear tea. The aroma of the tea filled the air, and all the diners in the hall were stunned. Why is this immortal tea so fragrant? I've never smelled such fragrant tea before. Hiss, that tea was clear and bright, not turbid. It's amazing. As expected of the immortal tea, it's different from those ordinary tea leaves in the world. TSK, TSK. If it smells so fragrant, it must be even more fragrant when it's drunk. No wonder this immortal tea could become the imperial tribute tea. The Drunken Immortal is amazing. They can even get their hands on the tribute tea. Huh, isn't that obvious? This Drunken Immortal is owned by the Marquis of Yoan. It's just that you have to spend 10 times before you can. Sigh, I wonder when this immortal tea will be sold separately. It should be soon, now that the Drunken Immortal can take out a batch of immortal tea for the diners to taste. It means that it's not far from officially selling immortal tea. The 20 servings of immortal tea had already been sold out. Chong and City never lacked rich people. Moreover, they didn't lose out because the immortal tea didn't require any additional fees. They could taste the immortal tea by buying 2 liters of immortal tea. As for the 2 liters of immortal tea, they definitely couldn't finish it here. So they could only bring it back. As for the diners who didn't get a spot, they looked on enviously as the rich people tasted the immortal tea. Hey, Boss Lin, you're here today too. Looks like we're thinking the same thing. It wasn't Chow Wendong's first time drinking immortal tea, but he still drank it very carefully and reluctantly. At this moment, he saw the back of the diner at the next table who seemed familiar. After taking a closer look, who else could it be other than Lin Wenyuan? He smiled. Yo, It's Boss Chow. Lin Wenyuan turned around and was shocked at first. Then he smiled and said, "Ha, I can't help it. It wasn't easy to get some immortal tea from Marquis yesterday. I don't know where my friends got the news from, but they wanted me to give them some." Sigh. There were some favors that couldn't be ignored, so he had no choice but to give it to her. In the end, I didn't get much, so I might as well come to the Drunken Immortal Inn to drink some immortal tea. In the first batch of tea leaves, Li Zishuan took 50 caddies. Of the remaining 50 caddies, the Zheng family took 37 caddies, which was close to 3/4 of the tea leaves. As for the first batch of members of the Yin Huang Chamber of Commerce, each of them only received 1 or 2 caddies. Adding on some favors, there was not much left, not to mention selling it. Therefore, when they heard that the immortal intoxication and had immortal tea to try, they all eagerly came over to drink it. Taking advantage of the fact that the commoners still didn't know about the deliciousness of the immortal tea, they still had the upper hand. Chao Wendong nodded in agreement and said, "Sigh. Brother Lin is right. Every bit of immortal tea I can get is good. With the little stock I have at home, it's probably not enough for me to drink for half a month." Sigh. Isn't that Brother Liao and Brother Zhang? Look, they're here too. In the first batch of diners to taste the immortal tea, other than Chao Wendong, Lin Wenyuan, and the other members of the Yin Huang Chamber of Commerce, there were also some other rich people in Chang and City and Lantian County. But without exception, those who tasted the immortal tea were full of praise for it. The texture was smooth, and the taste was slightly bitter. But with a careful taste, one could feel the rich tea fragrance and even a hint of sweetness. The elegant sweetness moistened the throat, making one unable to rinse their mouth for 3 days. This kind of immortal tea quickly spread throughout the entire Chang and City and even the big and small counties around Chang'an. The immortal tea was praised as a tea that only immortals could drink. Nobles, gentry, and tycoons were all scrambling for the immortal tea, sending people to search for the source of the immortal tea. There were even people who were willing to pay 10 strings of coins for a tale of immortal tea. The level of craziness was simply breathtaking. Of course, compared to going to the black market to buy, more people chose to drink the tea at the Drunken Immortal restaurant. Many people secretly made up their minds to send their servants to the Drunken Immortal restaurant tomorrow to compete for the quota of immortal tea. The immortal tea brought a great sensation to the people of Chang and City. Li Zishuan's celestial bane had also been seducing the hearts of the young men and women in the world. When Celestial Bane was first published, its sensational effect was not as great as that of Mortal Man. This was because readers discovered that Celestial Bane was not like Mortal Man, which was a pure immortal cultivation novel. There were not as many fighting scenes as Mortal Man, and the world in Celestial Bane was not as grand as the world of Mortal Man. The plot only revolved around Grass Temple Village, Blue Cloud Sect, Sound of Heaven Temple, Fun Xiang Valley, Ghost King Sect, 10,000 Poisons Sect, Hahuan Sect, and Longevity Hall. It was far inferior to that of Mortal Man. Moreover, compared to the hot-blooded pace of leveling up, slaying monsters, leveling up, slaying monsters in Mortal World, people discovered that although there were fighting plots in Celestial Bane, it was mostly about love and hatred. Readers who were passionate about leveling up and slaying monsters had abandoned the book midway. However, only a small portion of people abandoned the book. Moreover, compared to those who abandoned the book, there were more people who turned into fans because of the excessive love descriptions in Celestial Bane. This was because the ladies of the boudoir did not like to read novels about fighting and killing like Mortal Man. They liked romantic novels like Celestial Bane. After all, Celestial Bane was a romance novel in the guise of Xinxia. As the plot progressed, the stubborn, simple, and persistent Zhang Xiaofan, the righteous and talented Lin Jingyu, the cold and proud Lu Sueki, and the brave Bai Yao, who dared to love, hate, and pursue love courageously. These characters, regardless of whether they were the main character or the supporting characters, left a deep impression in the minds of the readers. It was then that the readers realized that although Celestial Bane's worldview was small, the characters were much more vivid. At the very least, they were much more vivid than the characters in Mortal Bane. Every character in Celestial Bane had their own stories. They were unforgettable, as though they were real. Many readers who did not like Celestial Bane at the beginning slowly began to like the story. Celestial Bane had been open for more than half a month. Due to Li Zixuan's fast update speed, the plot had progressed by about a third. The main character, Zhang Xiaofan, had just followed Lu Sueki to Kongseng Mountain to investigate the abnormalities of the demonic sect. During the investigation, he and Sueki fell into the abyss of dead souls. During the crisis, the two of them did not leave each other and developed feelings for each other. Later, they were separated by Blackwater mystical snake. Later, Zhang Xiaofan fell into the Blooddrop Cave. In the cave, he met the daughter of the demonic sect's Ghost King sect master, Bai Yao, and inadvertently learned the demonic sect's heavenly book. Yesterday, Tang Dynasty Daily updated that the righteous faction stopped the demonic sect from capturing Kuei alive. During that time, Zhang Xiaofan was forced to use both the Azure Cloud sect's Tai, Qi Xinqing Dao, and the Divine Sound Temple's Brahma Prajna to save Hidi. Although he saved Hidi, he was criticized by the righteous faction because they suspected him of secretly learning the Divine Sound Temple's secret art and using the most evil weapon, Bloodthirsty Orb. Today's update was about the Azure Cloud sect's interrogation of Zhang Xiaofan. Before the interrogation, Bai Yao quietly came to Bamboo Peak to visit Zhang Xiaofan. In the bamboo forest, Zhang Xiaofan and Bai Yao confided in each other and hugged each other tightly. Bai Yao asked Zhang Xiaofan about what he saw at Full Moon Well. Zhang Xiaofan promised to tell Bai Yao after the interrogation. After that, the three major sects masters interrogated Zhang Xiaofan. However, because Zhang Xiaofan promised Puji he would rather die than say where he learned the Brahma Prajna. When everyone wanted to punish Zhang Xiaofan who held the evil weapon, the usually quiet Lu Sueki risked her life to plead for mercy for Zhang Xiaofan. She even used her life as a guarantee. After that, Lin Jingyu could not help but plead for mercy. Hidi, Qihao, Zheng Shushu, and other disciples who were close to Zhang Xiaofan also used their lives as a guarantee. Zhang Xiaofan was deeply moved. But at this time, Taoist Song Song secretly colluded with the demonic sect and plotted to take revenge on Reverend Daoxian. The demonic sect took the opportunity to attack Azure Cloud Mountain. Gulp. Reading till here, all the readers clenched their toes. Due to the weekend off, Sun Ziffin, who was reading novels at home, was no exception. And because there was the word mortal in the middle of his name, Sun Ziffin had always been paying close attention to Leather Knight's new book, Celestial Bane. Others felt that Celestial Bane was not as exciting as Mortal. He never felt that way. Since the release of Celestial Bane, he had been reading it all the way until now. Jade Clear Hall instantly fell into silence. The righteous sects looked at each other. At this moment, anyone could see that the demonic sect had a huge advantage. Although Azure Cloud Gate still had many elders and masters, reading till here, Sun Ziffin could not help but curse. Fuck. This son of a bitch Taoist Song Song is too damn despicable. It's over. This time the righteous sects should all be finished, right? After cursing for a while, Sun Ziffin nervously continued reading. Due to the cooperation between the demonic sect and Taoist Song Song, Azure Cloud Gate suffered heavy casualties. In order to salvage the situation, the heavily injured Taoist Master Daoxian took out Zhu Xian's sword and used Zhu Xian's sword formation, causing the demonic sect to flee in defeat. The murderous aura in the hall had not dissipated. Everyone once again interrogated Sha Danan. Unexpectedly, Tianyin Temple's Fa Xiang spoke of a horrifying past. Who would have thought that the fatherly Puji was the murderer that Sha Danan had been searching for years to kill the entire village? Sha Danan received an unprecedented blow. He could no longer believe in the so-called righteous sections. At this moment, Bai Yao appeared. She wanted to take away Sha Danan, who was persecuted by the righteous sections. And Sha Danan also regarded Bai Yao as the only person he could trust. Bai Yao, At this crucial moment, I still have to rely on my Baiyao. Take away Shah Danan and live a shameless life from now on. Sun Zifen had completely immersed himself in Shah Danan's role. Now that Baiyao finally made a move, he happily muttered. But before he finished, he stopped abruptly, because at this moment, the situation changed. The defeated demonic sect turned back. They wanted to kill Azure Cloudgate. Taoist master Daoxian used Zhu Xian sword formation for the second time. In the end, because he was worried that Shah Danan would be used by the demonic sect and bring disaster to the world, he used Zhu Xian's sword to slash at Shah Danan. Zhu Xian's sword's most classic, most shocking, most tear-jerking plot finally appeared. At this moment, above the horizon, the sky was filled with qi, swords like mountains and seas. Zhu Xian's sword formation has already started attacking the demonic sect. Taoist master Daoxian used all his spiritual power. In an instant, all the colorful qi swords in the sky shone brightly. Especially the main sword of the formation, it suddenly grew by half. With a loud bang, it shook the heaven and earth. Like an ancient god in rage, it rushed down and attacked Shah Danan. At this moment, Sun Zifen's body was really tense. His eyes were wide open in anger. He already had no time to scold Taoist Master Daoxian, because he urgently wanted to know if Shah Danan could block this attack. Shah Danan is about to become a ghost under the sword, smashed into pieces. Suddenly, the world quieted down. Even the earth-shattering momentum of the sword formation of immortals held its breath for a moment. That once familiar, gentle, and white hand appeared beside Shah Danan. There was a faint, crisp sound of a bell, pushing him to the side, as if a voice that had been sleeping for thousands of years quietly sounded. For the beloved, softly chanting, "E'en spirits of the 9 underworlds, gods and demons of the heavens, with my blood and body, as a sacrifice. 3 lives and 7 lifetimes, forever falling into Yama. Only for love, even if I die, I will not regret." Seeing this, Sun Zifen had already predicted the following plot. Suddenly, his heart was filled with grief. He could not help but cry out, "Baiyao! Baiyao! Don't! My Baiyao!" At this moment, his sorrowful roar was like he was possessed by Shah Danan. He was in a state of madness. A dignified 7-feet man. At this moment, he could not help but burst into tears. A man does not easily shed tears. Only when the heart has not been broken. If even he was like this, there was no need to talk about those sentimental young ladies of the boudoir. 3 lives and 7 lifetimes, forever falling into Yama. Only for love, even if I die, I will not regret. Woo-woo, Baiyao is dead. Baiyao is dead. Woo-woo. My Baiyao. Give me back my Baiyao. Today in Chang, in city, everywhere could be heard the cries of women and the angry roars and roars of young men. Passers-by who did not know what was going on were all dumbfounded. They did not know what happened in the city today. 3 lives and 7 lifetimes, forever falling into Yama. Only for love, even if I die, I will not regret. This Baiyao is really brave. Fong Fian, the courtesan of 100 Flowers Tower, was muttering to herself while holding a newspaper. Unknowingly, 2 lines of clear tears had slipped out from the corners of her eyes. Woo-woo. How did Baiyao die? How could she die? Why did this leather knight write Baiyao to death? It's too abominable. Woo-woo. Imperial City, Changle Palace. Changle was sitting in the attic and happened to see the plot where Baiyao blocked the sword with her body. She immediately burst into tears. Baiyao was her idol. She had always liked Baiyao's character of daring to love and hate. But now, Baiyao was buried under the celestial slaying sword. Changle's heart seemed to be broken as well. "Give me back my Baiyao! Give me back my Baiyao!" At the same time, some radical fans spontaneously organized themselves and roared crazily as they headed toward the eastern city of Chang. Along the way, countless young people joined them. There were even many women in the group. Angry, they wanted to go to the editorial department of Tang Daily in Lantian County to seek an explanation for their goddess. Chapter 1382. In Zhuxian, Bai Yao blocked the sword with her body and died under the Zhuxian sword formation. The sensational effect was still fermenting. In the palace, Li Er, who had just arrived at the Li Zheng Hall in Shiyuan, saw Emperor Zhongxuan's eyes were red. He couldn't help but ask, "Guanyin, what's wrong? Why was she crying all of a sudden? Did some blind servant make you angry?" "Nothing. Nothing. I'm fine." Empress Zhongxun quickly wiped the corners of her eyes and said. Li Er asked curiously, "Nothing? Hey, today is really strange. Changle, Consort Yang, Consort Yin, Consort Wei, and Guanyin, you all cried like raindrops and your eyes were red, but you all said nothing. But if you're fine, why are you crying? This makes me really puzzled. Guanyin, tell me the truth. What happened to you all?" Seeing that Li Er insisted on getting to the bottom of things, Empress Zhongxun couldn't help but reveal a trace of embarrassment on her face. In any case, she was the mother of several children, but now she was still shedding tears because of the love, sorrow, and separation in these novels. If this were to be known, how embarrassing would that be? In the end, she couldn't withstand Li Er's aggressive gaze and said softly, "Your Majesty, it's really just a small matter. I just read a novel in Tang Daily today and saw a sad part, so I couldn't help but cry. The other sisters and Changle must have cried because of this reason, right?" Hearing this, Li Er was a little confused. Novel? What novel can have such a great attraction? It actually made all of you cry? Empress Zhongxun was even more embarrassed. She said with a distressed face, "Your Majesty has the world affairs in mind, so don't care about these trivial matters. It's just a novel for people to pass the time. It can't be taken seriously." Li Er saw Empress Zhongxuan's distressed face and didn't ask anymore. He shook his head and said, "If that's the case, then I won't ask. But Guanyin, you're not in good health, so you have to maintain a good mood." "Thank you for your concern, Your Majesty. I understand." Empress Zhongxun smiled faintly. "Xiao Song, do you know the name of the novel that the Empress just mentioned?" Coming out of the West Court, Li Er walked with his hands behind his back and asked as he walked. Zhao Song hesitated for a moment, then bowed and replied, "Your Majesty, if I'm not wrong, the Empress should be talking about Celestial Bane, which is being serialized in Tang Daily. Many nobles and nobles in the palace are reading this novel." "Oh, this novel was written by Leather Knight." Speaking, Zhao's is An's. Not only did he know, Li Er also knew. Old Li's face darkened when he heard that, and he immediately said in annoyance, "This stinking brat only likes to cause trouble for us." Li's could only Li's, S's Li's, by air. By air my air. Unlike Li Er, who knew Leather Knight's identity, the ordinary people who did not know the inside story could only gather and surround the Tang Daily's editorial department. Back when Li Zixuan serialized his first novel, Mortal, he wittily used a pen name instead of his real name, other than to prevent the officials from impeaching him for writing novels that would bring shame to the imperial court. The main reason was that he was afraid that one day, readers would block his door or send him razor blades. Looking at it today, his decision back then was really smart. Otherwise, even if he was a marquis, the readers who were enraged by Heir's death would have rushed to the Yunshan villa to surround him. It was easy for people to lose their minds in anger. Bai Er was the dream lover of many readers. Now that she had ended her life in such a way, how could the readers bear it? It was almost the same hatred as killing one's wife, right? Therefore, the number of readers who went to surround the workshop was getting bigger and bigger. This scene was somewhat familiar. In March, many readers also went to surround the workshop to urge Leather Knight to release his novel as soon as possible. However, the number of readers today was much bigger than last time. When a mighty group arrived at Lantian County, there were almost 4,000 to 5,000 people. It was really scary. Godfather Ma, not good. More readers are coming to block our workshop, and there are more than last time. Tang Daily's editorial department. Song Xiaoxi ran into the room in a panic and said anxiously, Today was Sunday in Yanhuang College, so Ma Zhou had been in the editorial department since morning. After hearing Song Xiaoxi's report, Ma Zhou was suddenly confused and asked, "Readers are surrounding the workshop again? What's the reason this time?" Because he had to teach students in the college, Ma Zhou would usually arrange the affairs of the editorial department a week in advance. For example, he did not need to handle the section of Bragging World every day. Naturally, there would be editors who would ask for manuscript from the authors and arrange the updates for each novel. However, Celestial Bane was an exception. The manuscripts of Celestial Bane were given by Ma Zhou to the editors under him every once in a while. Each time he gave it, it would last for almost a week. "Godfather Ma, I don't know. I can only hear them shouting from afar. Give me back my Bai air. Give me back my Bai air. I don't know anything else," Song Xiaoxi said with a bitter face. At this moment, a middle-aged scholar in the editorial department stood up and said, "Steward Ma, I'm guessing that they're here for Celestial Bane. Today, Celestial Bane just happened to be updated to Chapter 84, Blood Curse." During the Great War of Immortals and Demons, Bai-Er used the Infatuation Curse to block a blow from the Celestial Bane ancient sword and sacrificed her life to save Zhang Xiaofan. This middle-aged scholar was called Fan Xiaohui. He was one of the first batch of scholars to join the Tang Daily's editorial department. Now, he had become an official editor in the editorial department and was in charge of the section of Bragging World. Ma Zhou's expression changed when he heard that. He stood up like lightning and said, "What? Why didn't you say so earlier? Retreat. Everyone in the editorial department, retreat. Let's end work early today. Work that isn't done can be done at night. Everyone, come back and continue working tonight." Of course, he had read the manuscript of Celestial Bane in advance. So when Fan Xiaohui said that, he immediately understood what was going on. At this moment, Ma Zhou was really complaining in his heart. Why did he have to shoulder Li Zixuan's sins? It was easy to fool the readers last time when they urged him to write, but this time, the female lead was written to death, and the angry readers came knocking on his door. He could not shoulder the blame for Li Zixuan. Someone would die. Ma, Steward Ma, are we really retreating? Fan Xiaohui had been in the editorial department for a long time, but it was the first time she saw Ma Zhou so flustered. She could not help but feel confused. "Retreat. Of course, we have to retreat. If you don't retreat, I'll retreat first. Whoever is slow will bear the consequences." As Ma Zhou spoke, he put on his coat and walked out of the door without looking back. Everyone in the room looked at each other, but in the next moment, everyone moved. In just a few seconds, the entire editorial department was empty. Cough. It was not empty. There was still Song Xiaoxi, who had not recovered from his shock. "Master Ma, you're retreating just like that?" Song Xiaoxi took a long time to react. Then his face changed, and he said in a panic, No. I have to tell Steward Fu and let him think of a countermeasure. Nothing must happen to the workshop." After saying that, Song Xiaoxi ran away like a wisp of smoke. "Give me back my Bai Yao. Give me back my Bai Yao. Let the Leather Knight come out and die." "Yes, hand over the Leather Knight." After everyone in the Datong Daily editorial department left, less than half an hour later, the mighty group of readers finally arrived in front of the workshop. Why are there Imperial troops around the workshop? The readers of Celestial Bane finally noticed the abnormality. They stopped shouting slogans and began to whisper among themselves. At this moment, the workshop's door was tightly shut. In front of the door, there were 400 to 500 Imperial guards in armor and holding lances. They were staring at the angry readers with vigilant faces. A tall, middle-aged general with a stern face walked out and shouted loudly, "That's right, we're in the middle of the night. The workshop of Curious Interest Pavilion is an important place of the Imperial Court. I have been ordered by His Majesty to guard this place with my men. No one is allowed to cause trouble here. Please leave at once." The group of Imperial guards had been secretly guarding the workshop. Now that the situation was urgent, there were 4,000 to 5,000 people blocking the workshop. Faubert was worried that the readers would attack the workshop, so he had to ask the Imperial guards near the workshop to step in. They They are not ordinary Imperial Guards. They are the Imperial Guards of the Northern Yamen. Finally, the readers who had seen the world noticed something from the armor and equipment of the soldiers in front of the workshop. They could not help but exclaim, "What? The Imperial Guards of the Northern Yamen? Why are the Imperial Guards of the Northern Yamen here? Could it be that His Majesty knows that we are here to cause trouble, so he specially sent them here?" Hearing that the opposing army was the Imperial Guards of the Northern Yamen, many of the readers of Celestial Bane who came to block the workshop's door retreated. "Bah, second young master Tion, what are you talking about? We are not here to cause trouble. We are here to ask for an explanation from the editorial department. Who told Leather Knight to write our lovely Bai Yao to death?" In any group, there were cowards and boorish people. At the back of the group, a slightly plump young man in luxurious clothes with a gray cloth wrapped around his head suddenly shouted. If Li Zishuan was there, he would definitely fly over and beat the plump young man up. That was because the plump young man was none other than Sun Zifen. Most of the people who came to cause trouble were young students from various universities in Chang and City, as well as some fearless young masters from rich families. However, there were no students from Yinhuang College. Although the people from Yinhuang College did not know that Leather Knight was Li Zishuan, they knew that the Chitsu Pavilion Workshop and the editorial department of the Tang Daily were both owned by Li Zishuan. Therefore, even though they hated Bai Yao's death, as Li Zishuan students, they did not dare to cause trouble here. However, Sun Zifen was an exception. He had completely immersed himself in the role of Zhang Xiaofan. Naturally, he liked Bai Yao very much. Now that Bai Yao was written to death, he did not care about anything else. Seeing that someone was leading a group to cause trouble in the editorial department, he quickly disguised himself and followed them. In his mind, Bai Yao was written to death by the cruel Leather Knight. Even if he had to betray his master and destroy his ancestors, he had to get an explanation for Bai Yao. It would be best if he could force Leather Knight to revive Bai Yao. That's right. We are not here to cause trouble today. We are here to get an explanation for Bai Yao's death. Yes, let the editorial department of Datong Daily and Leather Knight come out and give us an explanation. Sun Zifen's words gave the people who came to cause trouble a high-sounding excuse. Therefore, more and more readers began to shout, "General Liu, what should we do?" A soldier saw that the group of readers in front of him did not want to leave, so he was a little annoyed. The general furrowed his brows, then yelled, "Listen up, people on the other side. The editorial department of Tang Dynasty Daily has already left for work. The Pai Xiaojua you're looking for, I don't know who he is, but he's definitely not here. If you don't leave, I will send all of you to the Supreme Court for the crime of offending the workshop." What? The editorial department of Datong Daily has already finished work? Hearing this, many people were a little discouraged. After all, they were only here to cause trouble for the editorial department, not the workshop. Sun Zifen curled his lips, then pinched his throat and shouted, "Who are you lying to? It's not even 5 in the afternoon. How could the editorial department have finished work so early?" General Liu's gaze froze. He wanted to find the source of the voice, but there were too many people in front of him. He could not tell who was deliberately causing trouble. Yes, it's not even 5 in the afternoon. The editorial department can't have finished work so early. You're lying. Yes, you're lying. The rest of the people reacted and shouted. General Liu's face turned cold and said, "Humph. If I say that the editorial department has finished work, then they have finished work. If you don't believe me, you can choose 10 people as representatives and go in and take a look." "Okay, let's choose." Hearing this, the readers immediately agreed, and Sun Zifan, who was in the crowd, suddenly became low-key at this moment because he was afraid of being recommended by others. After a while, 10 readers walked out of the crowd and entered the workshop under the lead of a military guard. After a quarter of an hour, they walked out dispiritedly. Judging from their expressions, they had returned empty-handed. "How is it? I ask you, is there anyone else in the editorial department?" General Liu asked loudly. No. The 10 readers shook their heads in defeat. They did not find anyone in the editorial department. The readers opposite them were in an uproar. General Liu took advantage of the situation and shouted, "Since there's no one in the editorial department of the Tang Daily, then you should go back quickly. Don't disturb the security of the workshop. Otherwise, when His Majesty blames you, no one can afford to take the blame." Everyone looked at each other, and in the end, they could only scatter like birds. "Let's go. Let's go. There's no one in the editorial department. What else can we do? Let's go then." "Oomph. I won't read Celestial Bane in the future." "Yes. Boycott Celestial Bane. If I read it again in the future, I'll be a dog." "Bah. If Leather Knight doesn't revive Bai Yao, I won't read any of his novels in the future." "That's right. That's right. If he doesn't revive Bai Yao, I won't read his books in the future." The angry readers left the workshop unwillingly. Then everyone's anger was transferred to Leather Knight. Chapter 1383. "I say, Marquis, this Ma has long advised you to change this plot, but you insisted on not doing so. Now that you've angered so many readers, the sales of our bragging world will definitely plummet in the future." In the Cloud Mountain Resort, Ma Zhou, who had luckily escaped, immediately came to complain to Li Zixuan. In fact, as early as 15 minutes ago, Li Zixuan had already received the news that the editorial department was being surrounded. Now that he saw a big man like Ma Zhou complaining pitifully, he found it funny. "Brother Ma, this kind of crucial plot is often the result of slight change. How can it be changed at will? Moreover, the later plot revolves around Zhang Xiaofan finding a way to resurrect Bai Yao. As for the readers boycotting Celestial Bane and Leather Knight, you don't have to take it to heart. I believe that they'll slowly understand me and persevere in reading it." Ma Zhou was speechless. He thought to himself, "Like hell I'll believe you. You've already tricked the readers into coming to the editorial department to block the door, and you still expect them to forgive you? You must be dreaming." However, the first half of Li Zixuan's words piqued Ma Zhou's interest. He quickly asked, "Resurrect Bai Yao?" "Marquis, according to what you said, Bai Yao can be resurrected in the future? If that's the case, then that's great. Those readers will definitely understand us. To tell you the truth, Marquis, when this Ma saw Bai Yao use the infatuation curse to block the attack of the celestial extermination sword and risk her life to save Zhang Xiaofan, I almost couldn't hold back my tears. Other things aside, Celestial Bane is indeed unparalleled in terms of emotional rendering. Mortal man can't be compared to it." In the end, Ma Zhou couldn't help but sigh with emotion. Today, he came to look for Li Zixuan for two reasons. Firstly, he wanted to complain. Secondly, he wanted to ask for the next part of the script. Because his stockpile of scripts happened to be gone, he did not know what the next part of the plot was. According to the original plot, Bai Yao's soul should have been destroyed when she used the love curse. However, Huan Ling took a part of her soul for her. So, the rest of the plot was Sha Danan running around to revive Bai Yao. Li Zixuan smiled. He didn't admit or deny it. He went back to his study and took out a stack of documents. "I can't tell you whether Bai Yao has been resurrected or not. It's a secret. These are the manuscripts for the last 80 chapters. Brother Ma, you can take a look at them yourself." Hearing Li Zixuan's words, Ma Zhou suddenly had an ominous premonition. He didn't immediately take the document. Instead, he asked, "Marquis, don't tell me you gave everyone hope and then made them despair?" He now felt that these manuscripts were a bit troublesome. Perhaps Li Zixuan was going to trick him again. Li Zixuan was silent. After a while, he sighed and said, "Is the result really that important? Sometimes, the process is far more unforgettable than the result. Whether it's hope or despair, only after reading it can one understand the joys and sorrows of it." Hearing this, Ma Zhou was silent. After a while, he took the manuscripts from Li Zixuan's hands and said, "AI, I hope that when the time comes, the readers will be able to understand." Finished speaking, Ma Zhou cupped his hands and took his leave. Marquis, the Crown Prince, Princess Changle, and His Imperial Highness, the Prince of Wei, have all ascended Mount Yun and are rushing over. Not long after Ma Zhou left, Pang Feiji came in to report. Hearing this, Li Zixuan held his forehead and said, "Damn, they've all come to settle accounts with me." Back then, Li Tai had helped him copy the manuscripts for A Mortal's Journey to Immortality. Naturally, he knew the true identity of the Leather Knight. Correspondingly, Li Chengxian and Changle had also known long ago. Although they complained, they still had to go out and welcome him. They had to give the crown prince face. Not long after, Li Zixuan welcomed Li Chengxian and the others outside the residence. After exchanging greetings, everyone entered the room. Changle impatiently asked, "Brother Xiaoxian, why did you write Bai Yao to death? Will she come back to life in the future?" Her words carried 70% anxiety and a trace of blame. Obviously, she loved Bai Yao's character very much. "That's right. Yamacho, look at how cute Bai Yao is. Why did you write her to death? If others were to find out that you're Pai Xiaoku, do you think your Cloudy Mountain Resort will be surrounded by 3 layers of people inside and outside?" The little fatty, Li Tai, also slapped his thigh and shouted. Li Zixuan narrowed his eyes and looked at Li Tai with a faint smile. "If others knew my identity, then it must have been you who leaked it. I won't look for anyone else but you. You brat, just wait to be taught a lesson by me." Li Tai's face fell. He instantly became unhappy. "Why? Yamacho, this is unfair. I'm not the only one who knows that the Leather Knight is you. The Crown Prince, Changle, my father, and Mr. Ma all know. Why must I be the one who leaked the news?" Li Zixuan ignored the little fatty. Instead, he looked at Changle and answered the previous question. "Changle, Bai Yao is only a character in a novel. Why do you have to take it seriously and hurt your mind?" Changle anxiously said, "Brother Xiaoxian, in Changle's heart, Bai Yao is not a fictional character. She's a real person. If you write her to death like this, Changle will feel terrible." Li Chengxian interrupted, "Xiaoxian, you don't know. Today's latest chapter of Celestial Bane not only made Changle cry, but also my mother and Ku's mother. They were all sad after reading it. The next time you enter the palace to see my father, you have to be careful. You should also know that Celestial Bane was written by you." Li Zixuan heard this and suddenly had the urge to curse. He only wrote a novel. How did he offend the emperor? His Majesty is wise and mighty. He definitely won't punish me for such a small matter. Li Zixuan looked at Li Chengxian and muttered gloomily. Then he said to Changle, "Changle, in the novel, Zhang Xiaofan was in a desperate situation. If Bai Yao didn't save him, then the one who died would be Zhang Xiaofan. What do you think I should choose?" Changle's face suddenly turned bitter and said, "But can't someone not die? Let Zhang Xiaofan, Bai Yao, and Lu Sueki all live happily together. Isn't that good?" Li Zixuan was speechless. Changle wanted Zhang Xiaofan to start a harem. After thinking, he said, "Sometimes tragedy is a kind of touching and also a kind of beauty. What's important is not the ending, but the process. Some characters are destined to have a sad ending as soon as they appear. You also said that Bai Yao is not like a fictional person. She's a real life, so her ending is not something that we writers can control. Xiao Feng's death was inevitable. Even Jin Yong himself could not change his ending, because this hero who valued friendship and righteousness had been brought back to life and had his own consciousness. He was a living person, and his birth was destined to be a tragedy. Jin Yong could only let Xiao Feng walk towards his death step by step. Xiao Feng's death was inevitable. Even Jin Yong himself could not change his fate, because this hero who valued friendship and righteousness had been brought back to life and had his own consciousness. Another example was the legend of the Sword and Fairy, especially the legend of the Sword and Fairy, which caused a huge sensation in his previous life. Some people said that there was no Xinxia after the legend of the Sword and Fairy. Although the legend of the Sword and Fairy ended in a tragedy, Zhao Ling, Li Xiaoyao, Lin Yuru, Tang Yu, Anu, and the Wine Sword Immortal, these characters with distinct personalities would always live in everyone's heart. The soul-stirring love and the ultimate sacrifice to save the world made people have mixed feelings every time they recalled it. Although tragedies could hurt the heart, tragedies could be even more unforgettable. Okay, hearing this, Changle was silent for a long time. It was rare that she did not continue to argue. She looked at Lisa Xuan and said, "Brother Xiaoxian, will Bai Yao be resurrected in the future? I remember that she has the Hahuan jade on her." It was rare for this little girl to be so attentive. She even noticed this. Hearing this, Lisa Xuan replied, "Changle, you can read the rest of the plot carefully. If I tell you now, won't it be boring for you when you read it?" Changle was silent. She nodded and did not say anything else. Fatty Litai smiled and said, "Yamacho, when I came here, I saw an acquaintance among the readers who went to the workshop to cause trouble. Guess who it is?" Lisa Xuan curiously asked. "Who is it? Could it be a student of our college?" "Hey, Yamacho, you guessed it right. It's a student of Yinhuang College, Sun Zifen." Hee hee. Litai laughed gloatingly. Lisa Xuan was annoyed and said, "This brat dares to betray his master. I'll teach him a lesson when I go to the college tomorrow." Hong Yi, something happened. Something happened. In a student dormitory of Yinhuang College, Hua Hongyi was writing at his desk. Liao Feichen suddenly pushed the door open and shouted as he walked in, "What's wrong, Feichen? What could have happened?" Hua Hongyi looked up at Liao Feichen and asked curiously. Liao Feichen quickly replied, "Something big happened. Hong Yi, stop writing. Listen to me first. Something big happened at the foot of the mountain." The readers of Celestial Bane collectively rioted and surrounded the editorial department. Hua Hongyi was startled and said, "Oh, they're angry because of Bai Yao's death, right?" Liao Feichen asked curiously, "Hong Yi, you've also read the latest chapter of Celestial Bane?" "Of course. Celestial Bane is a good book. I can't compare to it." Hua Hongyi sighed and said with emotion. Liao Feichen thought for a while and suddenly laughed. "You can't compare to it in the past, but that doesn't mean you can't compare to it in the future. Hong Yi, your novel concept is very attractive. The current results are much better than mine and Tianhua's." Today, the readers of Celestial Bane collectively rioted and said that they want to boycott Celestial Bane. "Hong Yi, your dream of Great Qin has a chance. Maybe it can reach the top in one fell swoop." Since the start of Dream of Great Qin, Lisa Xuan, in his real-life identity and Leather Knight identity, tipped 1,000 strings of coins each, causing quite a stir. Many people began to pay attention to this book at the first moment. Later, more and more people were attracted by this pseudo-time travel storyline. The protagonist of this book was actually very similar to Lisa Xuan. Or rather, he was a complete copy of Lisa Xuan in the Qin Dynasty. The protagonist's predecessor was a student at Yinhuang College. He knew martial arts and engineering. After the protagonist dreamt of the Qin Dynasty, he wanted to use martial arts and engineering knowledge to change the Qin Dynasty and prevent the Qin Dynasty from walking down the path of destruction. Now, the plot had progressed to the point where the protagonist invented the curved plow. This kind of novel plot made people feel very happy. When the news of Lisa Xuan's knighthood, because of the bent yuan plow spread throughout the world, it was unknown how many people were envious and wished that they could replace him. After all, to be able to jump from a commoner to a baron, this kind of thing had the color of a legend. Many people secretly thought that if they had the engineering knowledge in Lisa Xuan's mind, wouldn't they also be able to be knighthoods? It was rare that there was a novel that used this plot. It could be considered to have fulfilled the wishes of those envious people. Many people gradually fell in love with this novel and put themselves in the shoes of the protagonist. When they saw that it was enjoyable, they naturally wouldn't be stingy with tipping. Now, on the daily bestseller list of Bragging World, Dream of the Qin Dynasty was already firmly in second place. However, there was still a big gap between this second place and the first place, Celestial Bane. "Feichen, you can't say that." After hearing Liao Feichen's words, Hua Hongyi couldn't help but shake his head and said, "The words of those readers can't be taken seriously. Don't listen to them now, saying that they want to boycott Celestial Bane. I can guarantee that when they buy Bragging World tomorrow, The first book they read will definitely be Celestial Bane. Because although Bai Yao died, it doesn't mean that she can't be resurrected. She has the Hahuan bell on her. Not only do they want to read the plot later, but I also want to read it. When Liao Feichen heard that, he was instantly speechless. He thought to himself, this is a typical case of the eunuch being anxious while the emperor is not. I worked so hard to help you plan, but you directly defected to the enemy. Seeing Liao Feichen's disappointed expression, Hua Hongyi smiled broadly and said, Hee hee. Feichen, you don't have to be so dejected. Today, so many fans went to the editorial department to cause trouble because of Bai Yao's death. This also shows the success of Celestial Bane's characterization. Sometimes we have to admit the excellence of others so that we can improve. Although Dream of Great Sheen is creative, I know that it can't compare to Celestial Bane. Besides, Leather Knight was my benefactor in the past. Gloating over his misfortune isn't what a gentleman should do. Even if I wanted to defeat him, I should have fought him head-on. Even if those pronunciations really want to boycott him, I'm still his defeated opponent. There's nothing to be happy about. However, I believe that if Dream of Great Sheen is polished properly, it still has a chance to surpass Celestial Bane. Hua Hongyi's frank words made Liao Feichen feel a little ashamed. He waved his hand and said, Forget it. I won't worry about you and him anymore. I have to go write my manuscript. After saying that, he climbed onto his bed and went to get a pen and paper. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.